Thank you for staying for the news. And our first story. Ghana's security forces are facing resistance in an operation to flush out illegal miners from the Tano area forest reserve in the western region. The Joint Task Force has seized 15 excavators, but their efforts have been met with interference. Armed police confronted the team, questioning the raid's legitimacy, while Western North Regional Minister Wilbert Petty-Brentum ordered a halt to removing seized equipment, citing a lack of prior notice. The operation was briefly halted after an alleged military directive, later refuted, allowing the team to resume work. Now, the crackdown enters day 4 as illegal miners attempt to reclaim equipment. Environmental journalist and Joy News editor Erastus Asaridonko narrates the situation.
There was a banter between the deputy forest manager and the team, who would not allow them to seize the 25 excavators. So there were other confrontations. The district and divisional police commanders sent men in there ostensibly to arrest the team because they claim they are not aware of their operation. And it baffles my mind how the police suddenly got interested in illegal miners who are being chased out of the forest, when indeed it was within their jurisdiction to do so, and they have not done so. Subsequently, the Western North Regional Minister drove into the forest himself. He also asking the soldiers to stop tracking the equipment to the nearest assembly because he claims he was not notified. It was after we stepped in. And yes, the regional minister, Mr. Brentum, went in there and asked them to stop tracking the equipment to the nearest. So I sent him a message. In fact, I called him. He could not pick. I sent him a message asking why he wants them to stop. These are illegal miners. These are nature criminals who have invaded the forest for months.
Now, still on this, the acting chief executive of the Environmental Protection Authority has condemned the actions of the Western North Regional Minister, Wilbert Petty-Brentum, ordering a halt to remove the seized equipment.
It's pathetic to hear stories like this, especially now after we have talked severally, after we have made several attempts to stop illegal activities in the forest. And more pathetic knowing that we have a minister or regional minister stopping the operations of the Forestry Commission. I've moved to Ashanti region for several operations, moved to Central region for several operations, without informing the regional ministers there. We all have our mandates as institutions. So if it was indeed the Forestry Commission in the forest who were stopping the illegal mining activities, then it's completely wrong for a regional minister to come in with police to stop them from doing their work.
Staying on the matter of illegality, illegal fishing continues to threaten Ghana's fish stocks and livelihoods with destructive practices like light fishing, dynamite use, and the emerging Mali method on the Volta Lake. In response, the Fisheries Commission and local stakeholders met in Keta to discuss enforcement measures. Ivy Setoji has more on that.
Illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing is taking a toll on Ghana's marine and inland waters. Fisher folks say dwindling catches are forcing some into destructive practices, further endangering fish population. At a stakeholders meeting held at the Keta Municipal Assembly, representatives from the Fisheries Commission, Marine Police, local authorities and fisher folks deliberated on the way forward. Benjamin Campio from the Fisheries Commission says enforcement remains a challenge, but they are working with the Marine Police to strengthen oversight.
Yeah, so when it comes to the enforcement, the Commission has a working arrangement with what we call the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, FEU. Now the FEU is made up of the Navy and some fisheries officers and others. But government has also established Marine Police So we are working with the Marine Police. At least those ones can easily be deployed to the various police stations, especially the coastal communities. If for every police station you have 1 or 2 Marine Police assigned to them, then when we bring some of these cases, they know what the law says and they can prosecute properly. The regular police who don't know the law, sometimes when you bring them, they are wondering what is wrong with this and what should we do. But the Marine Police are trained, they know the law, and therefore we just need to get more of them along the coastal districts and their associated police stations. We are working on that this year. We were using the FEU, the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, Navy. That one is more expensive, how to set up naval bases along the coast. That's more expensive. So we rather look at the cheaper options like the Marine Police and even our regular police. If we give them more training, they should be able to do that.
The meeting followed a petition from the Concerned Fishers Association urging authorities to clamp down on illegal fishing. Fisher folk leaders, particularly women in the industry, like Ruby Adipo, expressed concerns over the health and economic impacts.
And we are pleading to our fisher folks, especially the fishermen, those who use the Ayew should stop using them because it's affecting our health. When they use those Ayew gears or methods to go and catch fish, it's something which is not good for our health. So we are pleading to our fishermen to do what is right. They should do the right thing. And now we heard that the representative of minister told us that now they are going to take action about all those gears are not good to use. So we are pleading to our fishermen that what is right, they should do the right thing.
Authorities reassured fisher folks that stricter enforcement will begin.
Now, the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the Cape Coast Technical University, Professor Kwamina Bafweje, has called on the government to establish a dedicated research fund for institutions to conduct impactful research. He noted that research funding in Ghana remained low, with institutions receiving little support from the GET Fund for over 15 years. Speaking at the first postgraduate conference of the Cape Coast Technical University, he cited Nigeria's Tertiary Education Fund as an example of a structured initiative that supports research in higher education. Abigail Nkrumah has more in this report.
The first postgraduate research conference organized by the Cape Coast Technical University School of Graduate Studies and Research was on the theme Impacts of Applied Research on National Development. Speaking in an interview, the Dean of the CCTU School of Graduate Studies and Research, Surveyor Professor Emmanuel Bafweje, mentioned that Ghana's GDP against funds allocated for research purposes is 0.38%, a low number as compared to those of other African countries.
What we have also observed that in Ghana, research funding is very low, and we are calling on the government to make sure that we have a research fund that will be dedicated for research institutions, for them to carry out this research effectively, and that will be more impactful. When you go to Nigeria like this, they have a fund called the TED Fund, which is tertiary fund that support tertiary education in research as well. Unlike ours, where we have the GET Fund, where every sector of the educational ladder feed on that, you might not get more support from the university. For more than 15 years now, we have not been getting the support from GET Fund.
One of the speakers at the conference, a lecturer from the University of Cape Coast, Professor Peter Obeng, advised graduate students to focus more on skills development.
We come to school all right, but after you have earned the certificate, what do you have to show? You are a postgraduate student, you've graduated, you should be able to undertake scientific inquiry, you should be able to, communicate through scientific writing or even technical reporting. Most of them are in applied sciences, engineering and other places. We would want to see that beyond your education, beyond your master's degree, you really can undertake some task in the field that somebody who hasn't had his master's can do.
The president of the University of Cape Coast Graduate Students Association, Robert Epeng Nanko, reiterated the need for the government, industry players and academic institutions to drive research and dedicate funding for postgraduate research, especially in technical institutions.
Despite these efforts, what we, the postgraduate students, are thinking is that the industry, government, and our institutions at whole should make some concerted efforts to drive research and pay more attention to postgraduate research, especially the announcement from the government of Ghana to set up a national research fund. This is a great initiative, which we are thinking that government should dedicate more effort and funding to technical research. The most institutions that drive research changes and innovation are technical institutions. So the National Research Fund should go more into the technical education where they can conduct applied research, innovative research that will drive the growth of this economy.
From CCTU, Abigail Lissel Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
Now, the Catholic Relief Services has launched the Agricultural Growth and Improvement for Livelihood Enhancement project in Tamale to boost crop yields and enhance household incomes for smallholder farming families. Here's a report.
The Agile project seeks to address food insecurity, climate resilience, and environmental conservation in the northern region. The project is currently being implemented in 6 communities across the Saviligu municipality and the Kumbungo district. The objective of the project is to increase crop yield and household income through sustainable agricultural practice, enhance integrated water resource management, improve financial inclusion, and market access for smallholder farmers. Speaking to the media after the launch, the program's director for Agriculture and Livelihood at the CRS, Edward Anaba Kuyela, said the project is targeting 3,300 direct project beneficiaries and over 31,000 indirect project participants.
The essence is to ensure that farmers are given the right, training to be able to produce economically. And we know what has happened in our space in terms of climate change. So farmers will be taught climate smart agriculture practices so that they are able to produce and able to make some profit. One thing we are also looking at under the project has to do with the aspect of markets. We know what happens when production is done and there are no access to markets. So this project is going to ensure that we have what we would use term marketing at farm gate, where we will ensure that farmers are able to sell at very good prices even in their communities. We 3,125 direct farmers and over 31,000 farmers.
The Deputy Director of Operations at the Royal Norwegian Embassy, Vivian Hilda Opsvik, said the Norwegian government is partnering CRS to improve livelihood in these areas.
Program because this is much in line with our priorities on food security and climate resilience. Ghana is a partner country for Norway on food security. We launched a strategy in November 22, where also then Ghana was chosen as a partner country for helping when it comes to food security and climate resilience. With this, we also got some funding, and we looked for good partners. And Catholic Relief Services is one of them, and we has assessed this project and found it is very much in line with both Norwegian priorities, but not least Ghanaian priorities. So we look forward to see the results, which is very much on the smallholder farmers.
The Northern Regional Minister, Ali Adolf John, said the Regional Coordinating Council is poised to protect the region's water bodies from sand winning. He thanks CRS for the project.
Menace of sand winning around our rivers is a matter of concern. The various district assemblies that these rivers run to ensure that they protect the river bodies for us. And so, apart from the district assembly itself, talking of the district chief executive, we will use the various assembly members.
Thank you for staying. Now, senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Ayew, welcomes plans by the Bank of Ghana to introduce a 273-day instrument, saying it will help mop up excess liquidity in the market. According to him, this will open up the market more to investors and also help tame inflation. He spoke to Joy Business.
It is good news for the market. If you are an investor, what it means is that the central bank is adding another instrument that will increase the depth of the market. It will help in liquidity management. It will help in matching or dealing with the mismatch that may be existing between the asset and liability for the liquidity managers. It will also create an opportunity for investors who want to invest to take advantage of this 273-day instrument. We should not forget, if you look at the recent T-bill subscription uptake, the Ministry of Finance have been experiencing some under-subscription. The question we need to be asking ourselves is, this under-subscription, where are the funds going? The investable funds. One would have expected over-subscription, but this time around, the interest is no longer in the Treasury instrument. Maybe it is because the rates have been slashed. So there must be another strategy to tap into the excess funds that are no longer coming into the Treasury bill funds because of the rate reduction for Ministry of Finance. So I am thinking that the central bank is introducing this instrument as a way of mopping up that excess liquidity that would traditionally has flown into the Treasury bill market.
In our second story, the Accra Technical University is strengthening its hands-on training approach through a collaboration with Kasona to equip students with practical skills in diagnostic imaging. Head of the Medical Laboratory Technology Department, Dr. Henry Hackman, highlighted the partnership's focus on training students and specialists in the use and maintenance of state-of-the-art imaging equipment. Rosilla Calistego has more in this report.
We observe that they do deal in equipment, they do deal in diagnostic imaging equipment. And so we saw that we could have a good collaboration and partnership with them so that we can train our students on this current and modern imaging equipment. As an institution, we prioritized hands-on training, and also we make our students go on what we call intra and inter-clinical attachment.
Well, it's a wrap for our business update. Stay with us because up next we serve you the news review. Those joining us, Dr. Ayew Mwako, she's with the MPP's Communications Directorate. We also have Mohammed Bataglia, Member of Parliament for Sisala East. Both of them join us right here for the conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the AM Show, and let's make tracks. The AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. And let me ask you, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Well, Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. I'll tell you what, Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit here in Accra. We're inviting you to invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance will meet tranquility in the heart of Accra. We also provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay memorable. Give us a call, 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit us at www.waylead.org. Let me also tell you about how every year thousands of Ghana's brightest minds flock to other countries seeking better prospects abroad, leaving a gap in our workforce. But how can we inspire talent to stay right here in Ghana? Join David Ofosu-Dorte, Professor Mary Setrana, and Her Excellency Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former president of Mauritius, at the 12th edition of the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Business Roundtable to discuss managing the talent exodus, leveraging private-public partnerships for growth. The date is the 7th of May, 2025. The venue is the Labadi Beach Hotel. Time 9 a.m. Now, to register, text your name and organization to 0530 117 202 or shoot an email to info@ieyamson.com. Now, joining us for our review this morning, Dr. Ayew Moako, she's with the MPP Communications Directorate, and Mohamed Bataglia, he is MP Sisala East. Both of them join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
I see some magic was done this morning. I knew that would get you laughing. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into our bite-sized thoughts for the morning, and then we'll proceed to look at some online portals. I'll start with you, Doc.
So I'm sure everyone is aware that we are joining our Muslim brothers and sisters in celebrating Eid. So we would like to wish them a very big Eid Mubarak this morning. Then we will delve into the more serious, the other issues of the day, or that have been going on for the past week, which includes the petition to remove the Chief Justice. I think that's something that has been going on. I'm happy to have heard a lot of different voices on the matter. But it's very important that in a democracy where we have separation of powers and the three branches of government, being the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, it is very important that we maintain the independence of each of these organs of government, just for the sanity of our democracy. So it's something that should not be encouraged at all in the least form, that a president comes and wants to find ways to remove the head of the judiciary. That's something that we should not allow, or we should not condone to happen, because the situation it creates is that then the next person comes and would also want to change the Chief Justice. Then we run a system where the tenure of the Chief Justice is coterminous with that of a president. And I'm sure nobody would want our democracy to turn into one like that. So that's a matter that we are watching keenly, and we hope the president does the right thing.
Just an interesting point. You say you hope the president does the right thing. There's an entirety of a process. I like the way you're smiling at me. In Section 146 of the Constitution. Yeah. In fact, I just want to clarify, no president, not Akufo-Addo,
has the right
Kufuor,
to
not
exactly.
Rawlings, not Adam
But Ben, do you agree that the president has the authority to weigh these petitions and to decide whether or not they move on to the next?
He doesn't weigh, technically. He doesn't do anything.
No, but we were here in this country when a petition was received by the ex-president.
Right.
And then when he saw on the face of it that there was not much there, he did not... I don't want to use the word, just disturb the time of Ghanaians by pursuing it, because we all know the three statutes under the article you just mentioned that can cause the removal of a Chief Justice. You would have to prove the woman is incompetent. That's not a simple thing to do. You'd have to prove that she's unable to perform her functions, or she's done something inappropriate. Can you actually prove that any of these things have happened, or this is just another distraction to distract us from the fact that the NDC is not really performing as they set out to do?
All right. Are you done now?
Yes, now I'm done.
All right. The president himself or herself, depending on the case, will not determine that there's a prima facie case. So it has nothing to do with any president. That's why I was citing when Professor Kuku Azar's bid came under Akufo-Addo. He will forward it to the Council of State. There will be a determination about whether there's a prima facie case. If there is, then the president, then the processes follow. That committee will be set up with 2 justices of the Supreme Court.
We are aware of all of that.
The president, no, I'm just trying to clarify, because you make it appear the president will by himself or herself.
No, not by himself, but we all know the kind of country
can I just make
we
this
live
point?
in, and the systems that we have. And I'm sure you've heard several people in the NDC come out and boldly say we are going to remove the Chief Justice.
So when we see
those people are saying, I think we have every right to be apprehensive.
I have my own apprehensions, going back to even the Buzia era and some things that happened, and even afterwards, okay? But I am saying that in terms of what is right, let's put the right thing out there. The president has no power. He is not the determiner or determinant when it comes to prima facie cases and all of that.
Okay.
If it goes to the Council of State and something is seen, because if you say that the president has some power, then we could say that Akufo-Addo too, on his own, decided that there was no prima facie case. Then that is what you are, by logical, conclusion, that is what you are alluding to.
He also had the discussion with the Council of State.
The Council of State determined that there was no prima facie case, and that was left where it was. The presidency merely received
and then forwarded it, yes.
And then got the response and then communicated that response, which is exactly what this current administration is doing. What I find worrying is what you've mentioned. Maybe some members of the group saying that, but she's been this way. You remember Unanimous FC and all of that. However, it does not take away. There are processes in place. A Chief Justice is not immune, not even a president.
Is immune from it.
Is immune.
And
if certain things happen, though he has immunity in certain ways, if certain things happen, even the president could find himself in hot water. So let's leave the law to
so you're expressing trust in the system to happen. And all of this would be
but if you have trust in the system back
all
then,
of this
why can't you have trust in the system?
Would be taken a little differently if we didn't get these kind of comments from high-ranking members of the NDC. If this attempt,
on that I agree.
Yes, this attempt wasn't sort of repeated in the past with Justice Georgina Wood. There were petitions at that time during Mills's era, Mohammed's era again. Somebody would, it's easy to sit back and think it's almost a calculated attempt every time they come to try and change the Chief Justice. That is the only thing we are saying that should be stopped and should not be encouraged.
All right. Coming to you, what is your take on this? My only happiness here is that the petitions did not come out.
Yeah.
Because in the normal sense, the petitions are not even supposed to come out for people to do this or that about them. In this instance, they did not, which I feel is good. Maybe this could also have been dealt with quietly from certain quarters. But of course, with the Chief Justice also putting out what she did, it wasn't going to be quiet, was it? Your take.
Thank you, Ben.
You don't have to talk about this.
Yeah, but before I even come, my dear sister promised that today being a very beautiful holiday, to stay out of controversy, but I can see clearly that is. But let me start by.
You can see clearly what?
This is me staying out of controversy.
Yeah. Let me start by also saying a very good morning to the people of Sisala East and wishing every Muslim Ummah Eid Mubarak. I think we've gone through 29, 30 days of fasting. And as Muslims, we are enjoying to let that reflect in our daily lives. We have a country to protect. We have a country to make sure that discipline works. We have a country to make sure that the old, young, strong, weak should be supported. Let's come together, make sure that the laws of this country work. And I am particularly happy, I think, from yesterday, most of the youth adhered to the caution of the president. And we did not see, like before, some of the conducts that actually do not speak well as to Muslim community. That said, I think that let me say that, yeah, my dear sister raised an issue that is clearly more of legal. And I think that, well, legalities must be tested. And in what form or shape, the most important thing is that we find justice through that system.
Justice?
Find justice through that system.
I have an interesting question for you. What is justice? Well, it's like Pilate asking Jesus, the truth? What is truth?
Yeah, the truth, yeah.
What is justice? Yeah, because at the same time, members of your party, some of the members of your party are also out there, and she must go, and this and that. You see, even if you have a case and such comments are made, or if these petitioners have a case, and yet you have a political party, members of the political party, sounding like this, it communicates some negativity. It communicates victimization, doesn't it?
You see,
it means that there could be an agenda, or there is an agenda.
You know, good enforcement of law will tell you that a lawyer or a judge should think out of devoid of emotions. Let the law work. Clearly, you quoted an article of the Constitution 146. In her case, we are talking about 146 clause 6. At one point in time in this country, you were trying to bring my sister on the tangent that she should understand that the president really plays a very little role, because the content and procedure are at par, because they are both very important. At one point in our lives in this country, we were told that the president through this process was just a conveyor belt. The issues come, then they refer to the right context. And I think that was done during Charlotte Osei, and everybody agreed to that and said, yes, a step was taken. I do believe strongly, even those days, there were prominent people from the NPP side that commented regarding the conduct of Charlotte Osei. But I only think that politicians will always comment. People will talk. People have their own emotions. People will want to show their weight across. But what would the law say eventually? Because we have systems, we have structures. Me, I think that, yes, people have petitioned. The president, as per the Article 1466, referred that to the Council of State. There were issues of what? Giving her the opportunity as what, based on the principle of natural justice, to be heard. At what stage, I'm still even questioning that, because I think that the committee has not yet been set. But once that has come up, the president gave us, she requested for 7 days, the president gave us 10 days. But the president also in the same process, because as per article, the same clause, article and clause 8, indicated that those things should be done in camera. It means the secrecy of the whole process is very important. But unfortunately, the president, her letter got into the media before even coming to the president, which the president actually expressed his disappointment. But that said, I am sure it's a process that has been set. Let's let the process run, because we are trying to make sure that systems work. I do not really have issues with people commenting. People will comment. People have their own emotions. People spoke a lot about Jim Mensah. People have a lot about John Dramani Mahama. She has a lot about John Dramani Mahama. But devoid of politics, I'm sure she has a particular...
All right. I think you've spent way more than a minute. All I'm saying is that I know the two of you will play politics from the different angles, but let the right thing be done. Let the law take its course, but also let's stop lampooning where there's no need to. And if you allow the law to work, you shouldn't be having party members out there saying, oh, yes, your sentiments don't matter. When it comes to law, your sentiments don't matter.
What is the gravitas of the party members in this cool process? They are just expressing their view. We shouldn't take that to be more important than the actual process.
The only worry is that when some officials of a certain standing seem to suggest something and also talk about what the past has held, then it creates certain, perceptions. You know that in dealing with governance, it's not just about what is.
Yeah.
It's also about what is perceived.
Perceived, yes. That's
and it
right.
Can create many problems. So let the law take its course.
The law will take its course. But after the comments, I don't think that it should serve as a barren point. No,
right.
The comments will
let's do the online portals. And today, of course, we have no newspapers, so we'll go to the online portal straight away. I'll do myjoyonline.com first, and I'll just walk you through the stories. The main story there, paying back stolen funds is not enough. Aveji, I'm talking about James Kluche Aveji, demands tougher punishment for corrupt officials. And that feeds into part of the conversation we're having this morning. I'll explain when I get there. Arrest Afinyo Mark in Napo and Dubik Mahama over missing ECG containers. Mustafa Gbande says so. And some of these containers traced up north. I'll be bringing you all these stories. Arusha Ghana warns of devastating impact of LI 2462 amendment. Interior Ministry declares no special security protocol for pastors and individuals. We have evidence. Prosecute now. Aveji calls for head of corrupt public officials, cited in PAC report. So when I do the first story, I'll segue to this one before I go to others. Mobile money transactions hit 649.2 billion in only 2 months of 2025. Last year, through the year, it was over 3-point-something trillion. Can Trump serve a third term as U.S. president? We'll look at that story as well. Dead Nigerian boxer was medically cleared before competing. Ghana Boxing Authority. I don't know whether you've seen the videos.
Yeah.
So unfortunate. My heart broke watching him. I mean, I can imagine family members looking at that and just...
You see the videos.
It's because he wasn't even, he wasn't punched. He could tell that. And it reminds me in a way of Mark Vivian Foy. If you remember, the Cameroonian player who collapsed on a pitch and passed. And then our development rests on our unity, not division. Mahama to Ghanaians at Al-Fitr event. So let me start from here. Paying back stolen funds is not enough. Aveji demands tougher punishment for corrupt officials. Former chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, James Kluche Aveji, has criticized the mere recovery of stolen public funds from corrupt officials without further consequences. According to him, allowing offenders to simply refund misappropriated money without facing punishment sets a dangerous precedent that encourages corruption. Quote, he says, the recovery of the money is good. It's okay. We should do that. The current Director General of the Securities and Exchanges Commission acknowledged in an interview on Joy News' PM Express Business Edition last Thursday. But that should not mean we are focusing only on the recovery of the money and leaving the punishment part. He painted a stark picture of how corrupt individuals continue to benefit from their actions despite being caught. And I'll end here on this quote. He says, someone takes $10 million of government money and trades on that money, makes an additional $5 million and is caught. They have to pay only $10 million. How about the $5 million in profit or interest that the person has made? I agree with him here. I'll start with you this time, Mohammed. Brief thoughts on this, because I want us to do many stories. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I clearly agree with him. Before even the issue was to focus on the punishment, but we realized that some people invest their money, get a 3-year jail in prison, come back and enjoy. And people said, no, don't just focus on punishment. Make sure that we retrieve the money so that the country will benefit. In this case, it's calling for both, which I think that I agree with. We make sure that we have to instill stiffer punishment to serve as a great disincentive. Otherwise, I think that our own conduct and also our cultural inclinations and values sometimes is making things difficult for us, because people know everybody. Once somebody is wrong, a lot of people will have to call authorities involved to make sure that they get them off. No, I think that this is a time for us to come together as a people to protect our country. We are milking our own country dry at our own expense. So I think I agree with Ayew completely that, yes, let's make sure that we have stiffer punishment. Apart from getting back the money for the state to the state, let's make sure that people suffer for the wrongs they do as per the prescription of the law.
And for you, Doc?
I don't see exactly where this comes from. In this country, usually when somebody is convicted of stealing of state funds, they do get a conviction, don't they? People are sentenced to 18, 10 years and whatnot. I think the problem is actually investigating these matters to be able to bring people to book. Because when they actually go to court and they get convictions, they do get steep sentences. It's not like they get slapped on the
How many of those do you remember?
I remember Abuga Pele, 18 years. Sedinamta Maklo from the NDC, who has run away, was given 10 years. So those are the most recent ones in my head. So it's like when it does go to court, they do get stiffer, they do get sentences that are quite high. The idea of trying to retrieve the money and all of that is good. And I do know that it works on a discretionary basis. So with the analogy of 10 million and making an extra 5 million, I do know that whoever is the prosecutor at that point would take all of that into consideration. So you might not be required to pay back exactly what you are suspected to have stolen. Sometimes they do add some interest and whatnot. So I think with the issue of corruption, first, culturally, because usually things that happen at the top level are a reflection of things that happen at the bottom. So first, I think culturally and socially, as you said, the least thing you call somebody to get you out of it. Those are all hindrances to our fight against corruption. And transparency is also something that's important. And I think we need to move to a stage where we make it very hard for people to steal instead of waiting for them to do it and then trying to catch them. Because we haven't had really great results with that anyhow. So the idea of just making the system so robust and transparent that it is very, very difficult to steal, to me, is the way to go.
I agree with you. I'll tell you part of the problem, which sometimes comes from politics and politicians in leadership. But a quick, interesting thought. I noticed you mentioned Abuga Pele, who was sentenced under the Mahama regime before he left office. You also mentioned Sedinam Tamaklo, who has been sentenced in absentia, right? She's not in the jurisdiction. And there are calls for her to be brought into Ghana to face the music. But since you've mentioned two people who were affiliated to the NDC, can you name any from the MPP?
No, honestly, I can't off the top of my head.
Do you find that interesting?
Unless you help me with that.
Do you realize how interesting that is? Because you were talking about, when such people are, found, they are brought to face the music. That is part of the problem, where there are, so to speak, political protections. So under a certain tenure, and for the sake of not wanting to revive cases that have gone before the OSP and all of that, I'm intentionally avoiding mentioning names. But I could mention very easily close to 10 cases or names right now where, at least as a student of law, looking at part of the evidence, you could say that this at least should have got to court and certain processes should have followed. at least whether to clear the person or not, and yet they did not. And you think what?
So, like, you can give me an
these
example.
These people were whistle
so that,
clean.
No.
That's why they
So
did
I'm
not
saying
get
you can give me an example so that it makes it easier.
Again,
because,
I'm intentionally
the
refraining.
judiciary is supposed to be independent. We would all like to believe it is truly independent. So if somebody has done something wrong and there's evidence, the assumption is that the law will be followed to the letter. Between 2009 and 2016, when we were in opposition, the NDC administration at that time did take a lot of people through the legal system. About 30, if I'm not wrong. Some people were stopped in the plane on their way boarding a plane, husband and wife. So all of that happened. And at that point, if there was evidence, I'm sure they wouldn't have let them go. So if that happened and nothing happened, now they've come, made so many allegations and accusations, which some of them, just by reading it, as you're saying, some would seem to have some basis. Some of it, just by reading, you can tell that this is not going anywhere.
What do you think about...
So it is up to them to prove these cases.
What do you think about Edubuahine's case?
What do I think? That's a very interesting case. The evidence which has been presented by the OSP to me, I mean...
The Attorney General.
Sorry, the Attorney General. It's I could say it's damning, but you know that's the thing.
Let's not condemn him here.
No, I'm just saying the evidence. So let me.
But I just wanted to know what your thoughts were.
Let me make my point. My point with all of this is, again, it looks, if anybody just watched the press conference from the Attorney General, it does look like you've already convicted the man. It looks like you've already made up your mind. But the truth is, these processes haven't gone through the court of law.
Sure.
We don't even know if all of the evidence that he presented to us will even be admitted in the court proceedings. So the matter is not over, but you come and have a press conference and you essentially convict the person before the people of Ghana. That's something that is also not good, because this is the easiest way to character assassinate someone. By you standing there alone, you've turned yourself into a judge, you've turned yourself into the jury, you've turned yourself into the executioner just by trying him by media. That's something that we actually have to look at critically, because I'm sure the impression of most people who will not want to give the gentleman a benefit of the doubt to see, this thing sounds to me a little too simple. Let's see how the matter goes. A lot of people will just hear this and be like, hey, and that's just it. His reputation is gone.
All right. Before I go to the next story, which is related, let me just let you know. Have you followed Trump and
yes,
the allegations against him?
Which of them? Hush money? Or...
So, I mean, there are so many against Trump that at this point, yes. Even currently, I think there is one that is still pending. And so just to make it simple for you, there's nothing wrong with what the Attorney General did, unless there isn't. And that's why I bring in Trump. If you look at even the US and UK systems, even when Boris Johnson, PM, you remember there's a something gate scandal. It was discussed in public in Parliament and by I think we're a bit averse, and I get it sometimes culturally. There's actually nothing wrong unless the Attorney General is making it appear that the person is guilty ab initio without having gone through the processes. And I always say, out there alteram partem, listen to the other side. A basic rule of natural justice. If you've not heard from the other person, you can't hang the person. So the person must go through the court system, and if the court says the person is guilty, then the person is guilty. However, putting the information out there, go and look at the US and UK systems. They do this all the time. There's nothing wrong.
Absolutely
even Trump
understand what you're saying. It's a tool that the prosecutors usually use, actually, to try and make their case. We're all aware that if a prosecutor is very good at using the media, it does go into helping their cases. What I'm saying is, put yourself into the shoes of this person.
Right.
And imagine that you haven't been given a chance to be heard properly. You don't even know
You will be given a chance.
Yes, but before you are
given... It's not as though they are going to base
Let me land. Exactly. You will be given a chance. But before you are even given the chance, the impression out there is that you are guilty.
In fact, what the Attorney General has done will mean nothing in a court of law.
Of course.
Absolutely zero. Zilch.
I think, Ben, you're missing the point. Exactly.
No, I am not missing the point.
What the Attorney General has done really has no bearing on the case. But in the court of public opinion, That's what I'm talking about.
It is up
he
to
has
the
been
public.
tried and determined guilty already.
I sitting here, I have not determined that he's guilty because I know enough about the law to know that sometimes truth is much stranger
than fiction. That is you. Just last Friday, I was having a discussion with a colleague actually who was talking and giving me the facts of the case as though this matter has already gone into court and he has been found guilty. And I'm like, no, that is just the Attorney General presenting his facts. It's not. It hasn't even gone to court yet for us to know what is happening. And this person was seriously arguing with me. So you are looking at it expecting that everybody has the knowledge or understanding of law that you do. But no, if you go and give this press conference to about 100 people, 90 of them are leaving there thinking it is confirmed. You have done this, you have done that, you have done that, and that is it. Yes, so there's that aspect of it. And sometimes it's very important that we put ourselves in the shoes of some of these people, especially since we're in public life. It's so easy for you to be tainted by such an allegation, especially
such tainting. Though, unfortunately, if an issue like that comes up, do you remember the issue of Ejenim Boateng, the former PPA boss?
Yes.
Such tainting, and I believe that is why Ken Oforiatta has also railed against certain things, telling the OSP, take me off your list, don't call me a fugitive, and all of that. However, if certain actions are triggered and it is alleged that you may have done certain things, those processes, there's nothing wrong with them, technically. There's nothing wrong with the announcements that we've investigated. You see, it's a bit new to us.
Exactly.
And I see that is the problem. But it is not wrong. But come in, Mohammed.
Yeah, so clearly, you see, I don't know my sister's argument, whether it is more of moral or human rights.
That's exactly.
And so you're looking at the moral aspect.
So you see, just like selling of state lands, there's nothing wrong with this, but we've all sort of decided that people should not...
You are talking more about morality.
Yes.
There are areas where there's something wrong with it. Don't say there's nothing wrong with it.
The Attorney General has every right to give press conferences, isn't it?
Yes.
But we are talking about the impact on the case, the impact on the person, and the perception that is being created that he's already...
Did you just say impact on the case? I've just told you that there will be no impact.
Oh, no, that's what you think. It's because I don't think this is going to... Wait, I'm just saying, this is not going to be a jury trial. But imagine in a case where it was going to be a jury trial, and before you even pick your jurors, you have presented evidence and tainted that jury. This is something that happens.
Doc. I don't want to say it this way, but when it comes to medicine, I will consult you. When it comes to law...
Ben.
So here's the thing.
I don't agree with you. Imagine you were picking people to sit on this case for the general public. See, there are even documentaries on this thing of trial by fire and trial by media and how sometimes it subverts the course of justice.
Thankfully, you don't get a conviction for trial by media.
You don't. Yes, you don't.
The point, though, I need to quickly make is that, and I respect... your knowledge of the law as well. But the point too is, even in a jury, in the US, in Ghana, wherever, if you apply that system, the judge, that's why there's always a judge. It's not just the jury.
Yes.
There will be a judge who will explain the law as it is, because you are not coming here. In fact, they are trained.
Exactly.
The jurors are trained, and they don't come and apply emotion, because the law is not emotional.
You're not supposed to apply emotion.
The law is not emotional.
You are not supposed to.
That is why.
But when you are deliberating alone in a room.
That is why sometimes there are judgments, and ordinary people will say, but I don't get this. And how this is as plain as daylight, yet where the prosecutor is able to prove that this and that. And someone will say, but this offense, why are they giving the person 3 years, 5 years? What does the penal code say? The judge is only applying at his or her discretion what the penal code suggests.
In this matter.
So in this matter, a juror or the jurors would have to be given education on what the law is, which is why the judge will be there. They can't apply emotion to such a judgment. I'm just making that clear. Mohammed,
it's just like picking me up and training me as to how to immunize somebody. I'm sure with my emotions, you correct me. You try to train me in the process that way.
So there will be the point of sometimes changing the location of the trial. See, I'm just saying, we are talking about a perfect system here, but we don't live in a perfect world.
Obviously, nobody's talking about a perfect system, but we try towards achieving that. That's what we're talking about. So I'm saying that I think you are you've made a point, but let's not also present it to the people as if that we are so defensive to the extent that I think the law that we operate on even still give the same person the opportunity to take everybody on if you think that your rights have been infringed upon. So I think let's allow it. At what point do we want things to be done? I agree with you.
Let's make tracks. I'll start with you on this one because I'm staying on James Kluchaveji and what he says. He says, we have evidence, prosecute now. And he raises some concerns about the former AG, Godfrey Adame, and some prosecutions where they presented names. And while the former Attorney General also says no names were presented. But let's look at the story. Former Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, James Kluchaveji, has urged the AG to see to the immediate prosecution of public officials implicated in the Auditor General's report for misappropriating state funds. According to the new Director General of the Securities and Exchanges Commission, these cases have been left hanging for too long, despite clear evidence that warrant legal action. Quote, he says, the current Attorney General has a lot to do because if we look at PAC's recommendations, and that's the Public Account Committee's recommendations in the past, the number of people he must prosecute is many, Mr. Aveji said in an interview on Joy News' PM Express. Then he also says, for the Public Accounts Committee report, the issues are clear. The Auditor General has done a lot of work and came out with those recommendations. The Public Accounts Committee has also invited the people. They appeared before the committee, and their explanations were not convincing. We think that the people must be prosecuted. It's very simple. It is for him to call for those reports from Parliament. That is the AG to call for those reports from Parliament. If he gets to the clerk of the Public Accounts Committee, he can get those reports, or the Hansard of Parliament can provide the decision of Parliament on those reports. I'll start with you, Mohammed. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to say, I think that once again, I do agree because otherwise it becomes a perennial issue that it's just business as usual, where every year or at a particular month or period, people are hauled before Parliament, before the Public Accounts Committee to come and answer questions as to their conduct. Then recommendations made and nothing happened. I am saying that it is very important for us to take a step beyond just asking people and questioning them what they have done, beyond just picking explanations. If people are clearly been seen to have misconducted themselves in a way and cannot provide any tangible explanation to...
And regardless of political affiliations.
You should take that off and make sure that people... Otherwise, it's like the oversight responsibility of what Parliament or the legislative arm of government is actually not being implemented. What are we looking at over? If we allow people to take advantage of a system who are not even actual politicians, who lie behind the cloth of what some other politicians, they know that when issues go, people say that they are persecution. Like we hear now in Parliament, where it has even turned into a song, that what NDC does is just to persecute. No, but if that is going to be done to make sure that we have the country running, we do it. But I do also agree with you that we have to take that political correlation. We shouldn't draw a line between you and them. No.
All right.
Any other person that falls within that bracket should be treated.
Here's a point where I concur with you, because oftentimes we treat these matters post the fact. Prevent the person from doing it. You made that point earlier, and I agree. Klucha says the Auditor General staff are ready because I've told them that they have the working papers for all the audits they did. So if we want to pursue these processes, we can. But the case where we always wait for post the fact, the thing to be done, for the meat to be stolen before you try and recover it from the stomach of the cat.
Have we ever recovered any of these funds? Even how much of it have we recovered?
In some instances, there are some recoveries. Which is why people are saying put the two together. Recovery plus punishment. So that you know that you can't just get away with it.
That's the obvious way.
Especially if you are dealing with a very difficult syndicate. Sometimes before you realize that things happen.
Yeah. We'll have to follow up on that. I don't think all of that was retrieved.
Let's get into some other stories. I know this morning you were a bit because your light was off, right?
So
your light was off.
Yes.
And
so it's a miracle. Thanks to everybody here that helped me get ready. I had to come and get ready here.
I like the way you are milking it. But anyway,
we all saw it.
Let's get into this one. So arrest Afinyo Market, Napo and Dubik Mahama over missing ECG containers. Mustafa Gbandi says so. So Deputy Director in charge of operations at the presidency, Mustafa Gbandi, has called for the immediate arrest of 3 key figures he holds responsible for the disappearance of over 1,300 containers belonging to the Electricity Company of Ghana at the Tema Port. The missing containers, which contain vital electrical equipment meant for national power distribution, have sparked widespread concern. concern. Now, speaking on City FM on March 31st, Mr. Gbande specifically demanded the arrest of Alexander Afenyo-Markin, former board chairman of ECG, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, former Minister of Energy, and Samuel Dubik Mahama, former chief executive officer of the ECG. His argument is that these individuals must be held accountable for their roles in the alleged scandal, which has raised serious questions about procurement irregularities and mismanagement within the power sector. I'll start with you, Doc. How do you respond to this? Because I've also heard Reverend Intim Fojo say the current Minister of Energy will be held responsible if these are not recovered and all of that. But if you trace the trajectory of when this happened, how it has happened, and where we are, I mean, you know, the procurements were not done yesterday. They were not done even this year.
Yeah. So now,
let's look at it holistically. It's not about who bears
responsibility.
It's about who bears responsibility. It's not about the blame game. It's about resolving the problem. Now they've gone up north, Tamale. They found there's 40 containers there. They've gone to other places and found, but this is 1,300 containers.
Yes. More. What was taken away is more than what was left. By the numbers, because 2,400, if you have that, more, what was taken away is more than what they left. This is a very serious matter that I wish for once we'll be able to put everything aside and deal with it, because I'm very sure it's not as simple as this. This is the port of Ghana, where it's one of the most, I would like to believe it's one of the most heavily guarded places in this country, with different grades of law enforcement officers. So to be able to pull off something like this, obviously, a lot has gone into it. I did get my hands on the reports that the current energy minister commissioned, and after reading it, I was a little confused, because there was actually very little of the reports that actually spoke about the stolen ECG meters. Even though from the reports, this investigation has started on 30th January. More of it is talking about procurement irregularities, which is also a problem if it's found out to be true. But the crux of the matter right now is about $600 million is the estimate that I've seen thrown around that has just been lost to the state. And very little has been said about that. And even in his report, they admit that as of December 30th, there were 2,400 and something. I'm just hoping that this investigation does not become an attempt to whitewash and hide the true events, especially if it turns out that it happened during the transition, from between the transition to now.
There have been claims. And in fact, I got a call yesterday, someone who had called me previously, talking about some entities and some of these containers and supposedly what has happened to them, which I cannot disclose yet because I have not concluded on those, you know. But the point too is you would hear the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, in Parliament talk about the fact that sometimes there are collusions between people at the ports and all of that. But we've heard from the former director of the ports saying that it is well nigh impossible. If the processes are followed, it is well nigh impossible. You need your bill of lading. You need other things to clear. ECG qualified personnel must be there to clear. So the question is, what exactly happened, and how did these containers, which belong to the ECG, which belong to the people of Ghana, end up in these places where people are melting them into aluminium?
I don't think whoever is responsible at the ports can just want to remove themselves that quickly, because from the little I have read, see, that's what I was saying. The report, it doesn't really talk much about the actual matter. It just spends about more than 2/3 of it talking about procurement irregularities. But the ECG doesn't have a record of clearing these containers. So obviously, whatever it is happened at the port. And this same report is saying in December.
You know that for a fact, that they have no record.
When you read what it is the reasonable conclusion you would make. Because
your conclusion.
Yes, the reasonable conclusion that I made, that most people would make. Because it's not like ECG has paperwork saying that they've cleared these containers and then it's missing. They have no such paperwork for clearing the papers. Yeah. So whatever happened at the port.
On that point.
Ben, I think that when corruption becomes a system in the governance architecture, it becomes very difficult for you to fish out people without taking steps critically. I think that there was at a point the President, John Dramani Mahama, indicated that we have allowed ourselves for our country to be used as a crime scene. This is the time, sitting in Parliament, that was on Friday, and listening to both sides, I was convinced that if we put politics once again aside, we will be able to deal with this. I don't want a situation, my Deputy General Secretary called for the arrest of them. Yes, but let's tread cautiously. I am saying that everybody should be resolved. We already have 14 people in the grasp of what? The law. Let's take the steps one after the other and make sure that we find out what is the situation. I also want to comment on what Doc was saying. If you look at the report even actually, the main cause of this whole problem is because of the bureaucracy and the procurement issue that make everything stuck there.
That's the point.
To the extent that they even have to go to a point how we have to be paying the demurrage at a very high cost that they even think that it's not worth it. They have to send it to other people for them to go to melt it back and export, which is becoming a challenge and which is actually a big problem for this country. So I think that at this point, let's not jump. We are learning how to swim. Let's not dive into the deep end of this area, not taking conscience of how we are gradually going to go through to make sure that those who are actually perpetrators of this crime should be nipped in the bud.
All right. And there's even talk about the former ECG boss, Dubik Mahama, the claim that he sought to halt ECG containers being auctioned in 2023. Talking about the fact that in that letter addressed to the then Commissioner General of the GRA, he pleaded for an extension of time to clear the consignments, citing legal disputes and all of that, discussions with the PDS. That has also, in a slightly related matter, has also come into the fray. But again, let's just hope that there'll be more conclusivity on this, and because you can't have over 1,000 containers grow wings, get out of the port. Someone somewhere, some people somewhere have benefited from this, like we saw in those warehouses where the melting was going on. Who are these people? Let's round them up and deal with them.
Exactly.
Seriously.
I just hope that's done as transparently as possible.
And hopefully, if there are political actors, past or present, who have been involved, because like I told you, some of the people I've been speaking to are telling me certain things about, I'll just leave it there. But past or present who are involved should face the music. That is it. Simple. It's not a bit about you are from here or you are from there. If you are involved,
they are actually the cost of your lighthouse.
No, because if you look down to it, maybe someone is experiencing a power outage now on the back of a lack of this equipment.
I absolutely agree.
In my community, we still have about 18 communities without electricity.
That's crazy.
Arusha Ghana warns of devastating, I'm going to go a bit quickly, impact of LI 2462 amendment. The Deputy National Director of Arusha Ghana, Darrell Bosso, has strongly criticized the government's proposed amendment to legislative instrument LI 2462, warning that it could lead to widespread destruction of the country's forests. Speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show on Monday, March 31, he highlighted the risks associated with the amendment, stressing the need for full protection of all forest reserves. And I think let me take a look at this, because I think there's been an estimate of how much we would lose if we just do so there's an estimate that amending LI 2462 will save only 10% of Ghana's forests if you amend. That is the estimate. I'm not saying, it's not coming from me. And that repealing it in its entirety or enacting new legislation will protect at least 60% of Ghana's forests. So the topic then is, which one do we do and why? Mr. President and your team, over to you. Then, Interior Ministry declares no special security protocol for pastors and individuals. So the Interior Ministry has denied issuing directives or protocols allowing any groups or individuals to bypass security checks. This follows misinformation circulating on social media claiming certain individuals, including pastors, have been granted special privileges to circumvent security procedures. The minister says these claims are baseless, and it goes on and on. Then there's the bit about our brother who has passed, the dead Nigerian boxer. Let me add that for now. So the Ghana Boxing Authority has officially confirmed the death of Nigerian boxer Gabriel Oluwasegun Olanrewaju, who passed away during a bout on Saturday night, March 29, 2025. May his soul rest in peace. Now, according to a GBA statement, the Nigerian boxer received medical clearance before facing Ghanaian boxer John Mbanugu at the Bukom Boxing Arena in Accra. Quote, Oluwasegun was declared medically fit by the Nigeria Boxing Board Control with his certification as a professional boxer before the GBA sanctioned and approved the international contest. Unfortunately, mid-contest, this happened. Because you can see, it wasn't even after maybe a punch that really got him. They were engaging in fisticuffs, and then he leans back a bit, starts staggering, and then he goes on the floor. Even at a point, he turns and his neck is on there, and the referee has to come and turn him over. Oh. They tried to resuscitate him, but it does not work. I felt so sad. Really? I felt so sad. But any quick reflections on these stories so far?
Okay, but please.
Personally, I haven't seen the video, but I just saw the story, so it sounds terrible. I think we'll not be able to get clarity on this matter till the cause of death is determined. And we know what kind of tests were ordered to declare him medically fit. Yeah. So it's something that we definitely need more information on. But thoughts and prayers are with his family this morning.
Any quick thoughts?
Yeah, mine will be on the LI 2462. Clearly, I think that we've spoken about this, and the sentiment being poured out there that amending a regulation 3.2 is not enough. We should look at repealing the whole law, because the whole law is not favoring. But if you read the, especially with regulation 1, it gives areas where money is not supposed to be done, but until you are given a permit. And the regulation 3.2 indicated what the president would do as in tandem with what Article 268. That the president has the right to be able to give somebody permission to mine in even significant biodiversity areas and other places. Now, what people are saying is that taking off that regulation 3.2 alone is not enough. Right. It even further gives more opportunity for people to go. Why don't we look at repealing the entire law, which is not in our favor? And I think that if the conversation is about repealing the law, we've taken the first step. If the first step is not enough, I'm not sure it will be a bit detrimental if we look at taking off the whole, repealing the whole LI, making sure that we save our forests and we save our water bodies. Otherwise, what we are faced with is an existential threat, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. So I am in sync with people who look at it and think that if we can still take further actions to make sure that we save our environment, I am all for it.
Let's quickly look at some more stories. Secret filming reveals brazen tactics of UK immigration scammers, and there's talk here of recruitment agents. In fact, I followed a story where there's also a Ghanaian who is involved. You know, someone pays £10,000 from Nigeria to one, let me get his name. Where's his name again? Kelvin Alaneme. He's a Nigerian, and apparently he's been doing this for a while. And some BBC, investigators went to him, introduced themselves, and at least one of them, he felt this was someone he could work with, and that was how they got this kind of information. I know people who have gone to work in the UK healthcare system officially as nurses, doctors, and all of that, and there are others too who go to these care homes and all of that, but it turns out a lot of them are scams, and you'll get there only to realize you don't have work. And that was the scenario when this gentleman prays. He actually paid £10,000 to Alaneme for a job in the UK, only to get there and realize he had nothing. And he says he would have stayed in Nigeria because, unlike in the UK, you can't be hungry and then, my sister, and then I'll go. There, Charlie, they happen like that. It's pathetic. And only yesterday I was reading a story about a Ghanaian who was also involved in this kind of thing, and it's heartbreaking. So please, let's be on the lookout. Don't go giving out money. These agents, in fact, last year I had someone, was he from Sierra Leone or Gambia? I had to help out someone. Help him out. He was Muslim, so I couldn't offer all the help. I eventually reached out to, and I must say this, the chief imam's spokesperson, Sheikh Ayew, who assisted. Actually, that was how the gentleman was able to go back. He flew into Ghana hoping to go to Germany. I saw him outside of my church. I realized he spoke some French, so I aided him here and there. And it was simply that a Ghanaian agent had taken thousands of, was it dollars or something from him to aid him. So he comes into Ghana hoping to get the documents and then go. And Charlie, he couldn't reach this person, and he was stranded. No plans for where he would stay and all of that. He was basically sleeping rough. I had to assist this gentleman. So this thing is pretty dire. If you don't know for sure what you are doing, please be careful.
Be careful.
It's a very sad situation. Anyway, reflections on that.
We are the receiving end. On a daily basis, as a parliamentarian, you are confronted with this, especially with the young ones. They have a feeling that they have gotten an opportunity and you are not willing to help. If you try telling them to understand that, no, it's a syndicated thing that people are taking advantage, they will not budge. And it has always been a problem. We have tried. In recent time, a lot of people call me and say they have a group of people in Cote d'Ivoire that is trying to help them to go do some mining work in Canada. And what qualification have you? What skill do you have? They say, no, I completed secondary school. Secondary school, do you have any skill? So what specific skill are you going to use? Wouldn't you take some time, build yourself up? But they will not.
But even as you make that point, and I get ready to come to Ayew, is it not also because we failed these young people in terms of giving them some semblance of work that would be good, that at least they can get by with or sustain themselves with? For which reason? I don't get it. If you have 10,000 pounds,
that's what the point I was going to make.
A Nigerian, you have
10,000
and I'm saying this respectfully, on the continent of Africa, you have 10,000 pounds. In Ghana cedis, how much is that?
It is the stories they
10,000 times 20.
Hold on.
10,000 pounds. They are talking about
that's 200,000.
160,000
Ghana cedis.
You just say 160,000.
No, I mean the pound is 19 point.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay. So
let's say 200,000.
200,000
Ghana cedis.
200,000.
You pay that to someone to travel.
It is the stories they hear. It's the stories they hear. People make you look at it. It is greener out there. The heaven is there. It's the stories. It's the story. And even if you ask, they might not even be having this 10,000. What they have told family members to be able to raise this money, you won't believe it. Because they will make you look as if that is just the only way the family will become better. And once that is done, and some of them, they buy into it to the extent that whatever you tell them, they will not take it. And it's quite sad. And we saw about also our national orientations, where we think that materialistic orientations have become so huge, said that people want to make things very quick without going through the right processes. Also exposes the nature of our educational system. Our pedagogy is also very wrong to the extent that we are more of just clerical people than more skilled people. And I think that we should begin to holistically look at all of this and see how we can design an education system that will inculcate some other skill training, because sometimes most of the style works being done in Accra here are from done by Togolese. You see the young one, they come right from their basic school, they are able to do something that is good. But in our system, with all the books here, we cannot do that.
On this matter, I don't have too much to say. I think most has been said. We have that much.
Is it also because a lot of you, the doctors, are also heading out of town?
No, I feel like if you are, it's a little
because
different.
The doctors are they are going wow.
All my best friends are out of there. I'm just saying that for that, it's a little different. You see, they have a skill and they have a system that easily translates.
Yeah.
You see, so if you don't have that kind of skill, what is your assurance that even you are going to be able to make it? You can be living hand to mouth. The only difference is when you travel, the quality of life is generally better. So you don't need to have so much money to live a nice life. But it doesn't mean you're going to immediately go and be rich. I think that's something that we should educate people more on. But I'll quickly just rebut the matter on the airline, amendments of the airline. Again, another opportunity for the NDC to display their hypocrisy on the matter of Galamsey. You said you were going to revoke it.
No.
Even we said we were going to revoke it. We said we were going to revoke it. You said you were going to. You come and now you want to amend it. And again,
it's been amended.
You expect you've amended it. You expect everybody to be quiet about it. But Honourable, you said you were going to revoke it.
No.
When are you going to begin to show a clear commitment on the matter of Galamsey?
We indicated the amendment which we've done.
So do you think this is a sufficient commitment
if you
on
look
the matter of Galamsey? No, it's not.
I am part of the separate legislation, and I sat through it and I've seen the debates. The first thing was even to ask, why did we even introduce this LI? That's the question.
So why, if the question is why did we introduce it? Why are you not revoking it?
No, we've looked at the clause that is giving somebody money. That's why I brought in a...
Is it enough? We have to go. Is it enough to amend rather than revoke, or in fact, trash this legislation and re-legislate on this matter? Because if you look at entities like Arusha, among others, that is the claim. And I've already told you, some say that if we merely amend, we'll save about 10% of our forest. If we revoke it in its entirety, we could save about 60%.
Yes. And even
why would you opt for 10 rather than 60?
The reverse of it is that when you allow it, it gives you about 10% entry into your forest. And when you take it off, it only gives you what? 2% allowance. into your forest. That's what they're saying. Are you getting it? So I think that first, let's start with the first thing that gave the because
okay. We'll have to continue this. You can land on that.
Yeah,
point.
let me land on that because that's why I emphasize on what regulation 2. If you get regulation 3.2, if you look at regulation 3.2, it is just giving somebody the opportunity to go into the forest. Okay. Let's first take that off and not giving, because if you want to go into that forest, it means that you have to go through Article 268. That will require that you have 2/3 of Parliament voting to allow you to go there, which is a much more tedious work to do or to achieve. That's what I'm talking about. If that is not enough, but there's a come on board again like we did, so that we all be able to build this. I don't know the reason why.
Final words, briefly, 30 seconds. Let's go.
We always insisted we were going to revoke the amendment, and so we are going to keep giving you enough pressure till you revoke it. It's as simple as that. There's no midway or halfway on this matter, Honorable. We have to revoke it.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Mohammed Bataglia is Member of Parliament for Sisala East. He joined the conversation. He's a legislator. We have medical doctor Dr. Ayew Amwako. I'm stressing medical doctor for good reason. And she's with the NPP's Communications Directorate. She joined the conversation. Thank you for joining the conversation. Ghana, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. So my people, go outside, check your tank. If it doesn't have the achichide, the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Just call that number, 0244 335 168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. And remember, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. Well, sports is up next, and guess what we're bringing you? Jordan Ayew. He's been doing some magic in recent times. That performance in the last match was scintillating. Daniel Coranting interacts with, yes, you guessed it, the Black Stars captain, Jordan Ayew. Up next.
So welcome to another Joy Sports special. My name is Daniel Cranting. Today our guest is Black Stars captain and Leicester City forward Jordan Ayew. Jordan, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Let's briefly talk about the Premier League. 10 years in the Premier League. You are the Ghanaian with the most appearances, Ghanaian with the most goals. What is the secret to that longevity? Because we know some of the top players in this country have passed to the Premier League. Their verdict is probably the most difficult league in the world. You've done 10 consecutive seasons in the Premier League. Just tell us, first of all, how?
Honestly, till now, I don't, it's thanks to God. Thanks to God. Hard work, professionalism, determination, positivity. I'm just, like I said, I've just been someone who is enjoying his football, and my ears are closed. I'm just focused on one thing, is the ball, and without hard work, I wouldn't have been able to do 10 years in the Premier League, but it's not an easy league. Of course, it's not an easy league. It's a very difficult league, but I managed. It's not easy for me, there's ups and downs, but I'm still challenging myself up for the challenge, and obviously, the support of my family as well, maybe when my brother was in the Premier League as well, helped me a lot as well, So, to be fair, I've been quite lucky. I've been quite lucky because I had the players who were in the Premier League that gave me good advice, guided me, So, I've been lucky, but I can only thank God for this longevity. It's not yet finished, but I hope there's more to come. But you people, you have the statistics, you do your calculations. Me personally, I don't look at those things. I just focus on myself to be ready each day and to just keep on performing, and all you got to know to win or to how long, how many seasons or have in the Premier League, But it's things, it shows that hard work pays off, Just focus on yourself, hard work, keep pray to God. But in a way, that's how it's supposed to be. That's my career, that's my story, and so be it. You know, I'm proud, I'm happy. Yes, I could have done better in some past seasons, but God knows why, you know. But I'm still, you know, still happy. You know, I'm happy because honestly, like, I think people wouldn't imagine me having a career like this, you know, and still going as well. So me keep on working and keep on doing my stuff, you know. The versatility is something that I think that affected me a little bit because, like, for instance, at some point in Ghana, I played maybe for 2-3 years. I was on the wing.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And after some time, then up front, I started up front, then in the wing, then up front, you know. So it's something, but I don't have a problem with it. I just want to be on the pitch. I just want to enjoy myself and play football, you know. So even, for instance, Vieira, we spoke. He's a very good manager. We have really had a good relationship, you know. And he just told me that, oh, they need me at this position. He gave me the reasons why, and I said, okay, cool. You are the boss. You think this what is good for your squad and your team. I'm paid to do it. No problem. I'll do it. So that's how, you know, that's the type of player I am. I'm someone, I don't like to complain. I just want to play football and enjoy myself because I started playing football when I was 5 or 6, you know, and I was always enjoying myself. So that's what I always want to do. When I wake up in the morning, I'm lucky to play football, to be going to training every morning, to be enjoying myself with my teammates, you know, and that's the only thing. So for me, I really have no problem. People have the opinion. Everyone has his opinion. That's life. But I know in myself that my versatility has done me good and bad.
Do you understand what I mean? It's giving you more play time, but
exactly, you know. Yeah. So for instance, like with my, let's say, with Roy Hodgson, a very wonderful manager, you know, I get along with most of my managers, or 97% of my managers. I've always gotten along with them because of my understanding of the game and what is required at certain moments, you know. So for instance, with Roy Hodgson, my second season at Palace, I think that's before COVID, I was flying, so I was scoring, I was playing up front, I was scoring, and Andros Thousand got injured, and he came up to me and was like, I know you're doing so well for us as a number 9, but at this point I don't have anybody to play on the wing, so, and I only have Benteke, so Benteke cannot play on the wing, look at his structure and everything, so he asked me, he said, would you like to play there? And I'm like, coach, if you don't have anyone, I can't say no. And I played there and I did well 1, 2, 3. And that's how most of my games I was stuck there, you know. Yeah. So it's not, those are the type of things. But no, I take it in good faith and I have no problem with it. Like I'm very happy and, you know, very happy in my life. Very, honestly, I can really thank God. That's my story and so be it.
John, the people say you don't smile. So I have some questions that would let people understand who you are because you don't smile. So when they see your head is down, you go about your business, you're not smiling. But so I have some quick questions for us to know who exactly Jordan Ayew is. So what's your favorite moment in the national team?
Wow. I've had a couple of moments though. Well, honestly, I've had a couple of good moments in the national team. I think, honestly, it's hard. It's hard to have good moments in the national team.
Okay, give me 3.
I'll go for 2015 African Cup. Okay. And in Gabon, we lost against Ivory Coast in the finals.
Yeah.
The penalties. Then obviously, what was it? The 2019 African Cup. We were unlucky. We got kicked out in the pen at Tunisia. Then when I scored, just recently when I scored the hat-trick, Central Africa.
I'm screaming in this.
Yeah. Those are the kind of, but I've had like other ones I can say, hat-trick against South Korea in 2014. So
quite a number.
No, there's quite few, it's been, people will not see it like that because obviously I've been criticized and all those things for years and maybe even till today. But at the end of the day, I'm still here.
So
I hear.
Are you like social media savvy?
No, I'm not into social media that much. But, I have family, I have friends.
They tell you that today this was what was.
They speak, they say, and I take it in good faith. Because at the end of the day, it don't change nothing really it doesn't change much for me.
Yeah.
The only thing it changes is it will change my mood.
Yeah.
But that was when maybe I was younger, when I was maybe 22, 23.
Yeah.
But now, at my age, I can only thank God and enjoy and move on,
Let's talk about your club career. Give me like top 3 favorite moments in your club.
Honestly, it's, the day, one, obviously, I scored against West Ham Boxing Day.
The 360
chip, yeah. That one. I'm going to call, I'll just call Palace. Cause at Palace, I really enjoyed myself there.
Yeah.
And I really, that's the place that I felt really at home. And I felt like I was never going to live there.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? But, everything has an end, But I think at Palace, I had great moments. I scored big goals for them. I didn't score many goals, but I was just lucky I managed to score important goals for them, And another moment when I was in France, when I was in Lorient, played against Marseille. I played against Marseille and I think I played twice against them. I scored 3 goals, So that was a big moment, emotional big moment. Honestly, when I think about those things, I've gone a long way,
Yeah,
I've gone a long way.
You've done so. Your favorite Black Stars goal. You are in the top 5 top scorers when it comes to Ghana. You scored 29 goals for the country. Of the 29.
29, I didn't even know,
Yeah, I'm telling you, 29. You scored 9 last year in 2024. Now you
got a good. 2024 was good for me.
Very, very good. Very good for you. Your favorite Black Stars?
Sheesh. I don't know because I scored lovely goals, I think I'll go, against Comoros at Kumasi. Play against Comoros at Kumasi, so the ball, I don't even know how I managed to control the ball and take a touch in the 18 and manage to bend it. I think that was my favorite. I need to think, because there's
stuff.
Again, I think that was
Let me tell you my favorite Jordan Ayew goal for the Black Stars in terms of both of them. For their 2, both of them was AFCON 2019 against Benin, the top corner.
Oh yeah, that one.
And then the third group game, I think it was Equatorial Guinea.
Oh yeah, when I did a step over. Yeah, that one as well.
So 2 really good goals for me. But your the toughest player I've ever faced.
Toughest player I've ever faced. Well, international or
across?
I think Thiago Silva,
Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
That was Palace.
Yeah, when it was at Paris and Chelsea.
Yeah.
so smart, so difficult to play against. Like he really like he thinks ahead. He anticipates so well. He's never close to you. He gives you always a yard, and he's sharp, and it was difficult. People, to be fair, people say Van Dijk, but I feel against Van Dijk some few times, and of course don't get me wrong, he's a big defender and everything, but I just feel like Thiago Silva has an edge. Yeah. Thiago Silva has an edge. So for me, that's Thiago Silva.
Thiago Silva. Okay. The best player you played with in the Black Stars?
Oof.
Minus Dede, I'll make this one easy for you. Put Dede aside. So aside your brother, your best player,
It's kind of had so many players, man. Best player? Mm-hmm. I don't know, because there's few, that I really like. I really like. It really caught my eye, One is no more here with us. So rest in peace. Yeah, him. Funny enough, I love playing with Asamoah.
You assisted him quite enough.
Yeah, but I love playing with him because he made things so easy, for me, and gives me so much time, like space, because he was attracting the defenders. And he could combine as well. He was good technically. He was a very good finisher. Obviously, then you had Wakaso as well in midfield. You had Montari as well. I didn't play long with him, but the few times I played with him, like, for a striker, it's a dream. Yeah. I say Montari and Wakaso, but Wakaso was a bit similar to Montari, like the diagonal balls, the balls in behind, This stuff. But to be honest, I'll go for Ayew, because he deserves it. He deserves a lot of credit and plaudits for what he has done in his career, and for what he has done for the national team. Don't get me wrong, you have Asamoah, you have Dede. Honestly, playing in that generation, that group of people was just unbelievable. It was top. But I'll give it to Christian, because obviously he deserved credit, and people don't talk much about him, but he was a really, really top player. Maybe in Europe, he wasn't performing how people expected to perform, but like I said, in the national team, when it came to the national team, it was a different breed, and I really enjoyed playing with him. To fair him, Asamoah, Dede, and had Wakaso and Akwa in midfield. You had Jonathan Mensah, John Boy behind. You had Harrison Affo. Harrison Affo was a top player as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, that generation, that group of players, 2015. Honestly, it was so enjoyable to play with them.
You clearly enjoyed it.
No, it was really enjoyable to play with them.
Yeah. This is also a tough one. The best manager you've worked under?
Best manager? Roy Hodgson.
Straight.
Yeah, Roy Hodgson.
That was a straight answer. Okay.
Because, I'll tell you why. Because he just understood me. He understood me. He knew what I needed at any time. He was like a father figure to me. He was like a grandfather. Not only football, even about life, advice. It was, he gave me a really, really good view of who I am as a player, and what I could do, and where my strength was and everything. So I always go for Rodson, because he's a loyal manager.
Yeah.
Loyal manager. And that loyalty, you don't have it a lot in football. So yeah. For me, Roy Hodgson, hands down.
Thank you. Your one player you didn't play with, but you wish you played with. And this one to your dad is not partner.
Played with my dad though, but at that time it was on retirement. It was still good, very good. Well, I don't know, because I always sit down and I'm like playing as a striker with, Stephen Appiah, Larry Kingston, just to see how it was,
Yeah.
because I admire them as footballers, and I wish I could have just played with them, because I had a feel with ACN and Muntari in the game, ACN in training a bit, and already I was like, wow. So, but just Steven and yeah.
Wow. That's a very good choice. Now, your favorite player growing up?
My favorite player growing up, it was Ronaldinho. It was Ronaldinho. Then Cristiano Ronaldo came as well. Then, of course, those were the two that I was really, because when I really started playing football, like when I started towards when I was like not like started playing in leagues in Ghana, I was like 9, 10.
Okay.
Then that's when Cristiano and Ronaldinho was in Barcelona. Cristiano was coming up in Man U, so those were my two players, but of course then when I went to Marseille, then I started playing as a number 9, then started looking up to Drogba, started looking up to Eto'o.
Okay.
And there's quite a few. Adebayo as well. There's quite a few, but I don't have one that I'm like, that there's so many, so I can't choose. So I just put all two.
Okay. Who's the funniest guy in camp in the Black Stars?
Now?
Yeah.
The problem is that there's no one who's like, like before there was always one who was really, or two who were really funny. Everyone is quite joyful, it's a different, I cannot pick one, but there's few who are interesting.
I think me at least like 2 names. I'm doing an experiment because somebody's name has been mentioned a couple of times. I won't see you.
I don't know. You mean this camp or like?
No, like, let me say like the past 2-3 years.
In the past 2-3 years. Gideon.
Gideon Mensah.
Yeah.
Always be me.
Yeah, he's a funny one. Then there's other ones. There's other ones who are not bad, but yeah.
Who's the most quiet person in camp? Somebody said it was you.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly. Possibly.
Apart from because quiet people do a lot of observation.
Yeah.
So, apart from you, who doesn't talk much with them?
Those don't speak much. Then maybe some new guys when they come, they're a bit like shy and everything. But no, I think I'm possibly the most quiet one when they come.
Who's your best friend in football?
My best friend in football. Because people think I don't have friends.
Exactly.
People think I don't have friends. That's why.
It's like you're always alone. You're working by yourself, but you have, of course, you've played for a long time.
No. My best friend in football actually is my roommate when I was in the academy. And obviously we're still friends today, very good friends. And he is like my best friend in football, where we went to school together, we slept in the same room, we ate in the same plate, we washed our clothes together, we like literally did everything together till maybe when then I went to the first team together, but he didn't have his chance. Then after I went on loan and went a bit left and right and ended up in China now today. He's been in China for maybe 5 years now.
What's his name?
Alexander Indumbu. So he's like half Chinese, half Gabonese.
Okay.
So he's my very good friend, very, very good friend. Like, he's not even my friend, he's my brother.
Wow. You listen to a lot of music, obviously. You're quiet, your headphones, and yeah. What do you listen? Who's like your who's that artist that can't miss a Jordan Ayew playlist? Like when you are putting together a playlist, that one artist.
Yeah, because because I was in France, so I listen to a lot of French rap.
Okay.
And sometimes US rap as well, Afrobeat sometimes. So it depends on my mood and the day, and I'm a bit flexible.
Okay,
but obviously, my French rapper is Nino. US rapper is Future, and you want to hear the Ghanaian one. I always go for Shatta because he's the one I've always liked when he started. Obviously, Stonebwoy is doing quite well as well.
Yeah. So
now I'm a bit flexible. I don't have a main genre.
Wow. Let's quickly wrap up here, but I want to ask you this question in terms of style. Okay. How would you describe yourself as a footballer, and what is your favorite position?
I don't think my style is I don't think it's common. That is something that is, because me personally, I feel like I can do quite a lot of things. And maybe that's what is maybe against me a bit. I don't know. It's just because I'm someone who adapt myself very quickly.
Yeah.
And I learn very fast as well. So in terms of football style, because I can play 9, I can play behind the striker, even maybe at Palace, because tactically, apparently my awareness and I'm so good tactically. Sometimes I played in midfield, some games. So I can't even describe myself, funny enough. I don't even know. Before, when I was young, I said, I want to be like Ronaldinho, I want to be like Cristiano Ronaldo, or I want to be like R9.
Yeah.
But now I can't even describe myself, because sometimes when I play, I can be ordinary. When I play, I can be very skillful. When I play, so I can't even describe myself.
You do. Interesting. Jordan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this with us, and all the best during your time as Black Stars captain. Hopefully, and Jordan will be the one to lift that elusive trophy that we've been waiting for. Hopefully, it will happen. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Jordan.
Thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure.
Welcome back on the AM Show. We get into our big stories. On the AM Show, it's sponsored by Lead Properties. Now, getting into our main stories, using an award system to fight corruption, is that even possible? How effective can that be? As Speaker Alban Sumana Kingsford Backman announces the National Integrity Awards to honor citizens and other persons who are or who have proven themselves incorruptible and are contributing to nation building. But wait a minute. He says there's also the Vulture Awards to expose corrupt public officials. Yeah, Opite Awards. This, he believes, will promote integrity and foster accountability. But the question is, do you agree with him? Joining us for a conversation on this beat, we have Vicky Bright, former legal advisor to ex-President Ayew Kufuor. She's a woman of many things. She wears many hats. Yunus Afuseni is former member of parliament, legislator for Tamale Central. John Osai Kwapong is a CDD fellow, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, and Sami Obeng is executive director, Parliamentary Network Africa. We also have Vitus Azim, an anti-graft campaigner. All of them, yeah, you see what we're doing. It's a composite of all of these fine brains joining us for a conversation. Let me check out those on Zoom to just be sure everybody's there. I've seen Dr. John Osai Kwapong. I've seen Sami Obeng. I believe they are joining us for starters. Okay. A very good morning to you, Vicky.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning to your viewers as well.
All right. Let me start with you, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. What do you think? What is in an award? This is not an award that anybody would actually go and receive, but what is in this kind of award that could help shape the fight against corruption? Let's start with your initial thoughts about it, Samuel Ayew. In fact, I'll start with you, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. My apologies. Dr. Osai-Kwapong.
Good morning, Benjamin, and good morning to everyone else. I believe he's looking for one more way or one more tool that we can incentivize people to do right, to do the right thing, to shy away from corruption, to help in the fight against corruption. And so the two-dimensional nature of the award is you recognize those who are being upright and standing up and pushing back and doing all of the right things. And then the other dimension of the award is publicly naming and shaming those who won't help us fight this canker of corruption. It's intriguing how it would be actually done, the criteria, who selects, etc., will be interesting to see how it actually plays out. But I guess the award system is just to find another way of creating both incentives for people to do right and disincentives for people to do wrong.
All right. Samuel Ayew, your take.
Well, good morning, and regards to the panelists and your viewers. I know that for many people, yes, this may come as a very big surprise, wondering what is the place of Parliament in the fight against corruption, especially using such a means. People may be asking the questions about why not the other state institutions that are specifically clothed with a mandate to fight corruption and what have you. But I dare say that the fight against corruption is one of the important mandates of every legislative arm of government. For the institution that has the power of the purse, that approves the budget, that is mandated to ensure that how the monies that are allocated to the executive branch gets spent. For an institution that has the Supreme Audit Institution, in our case, the Auditor General, as an officer of the House, to bring his reports to Parliament for scrutiny and for ensuring that Parliament plays its oversight role. The fight against corruption, or Parliament's and anti-corruption, is a very important, role of parliaments globally. Most often, many parliaments have shared this responsibility and have not been as frontal about it as possible. As to whether an award scheme will be the magic wand, that Parliament can put up, is one that, requires a lot of discussions. Just like Dr. Osai-Kwapong said, the mechanisms, how it will be done, the criteria, how often, are all things that we'll be very interested in learning about. For an institution, and it's important to note that in recent months, Parliament has actually set up an anti-corruption office, in Parliament to advise on matters relating to anti-corruption or the fight against corruption and what have you. So there's been a lot of innovative moves in Parliament on matters relating to corruption. How all of these things play up together to help in the combat of this major canker is important. And of course, to end my preliminary thoughts, it is important also that Parliament looks at it not only with respect to how they are overseeing the executive branch or naming and shaming members of the executive branch on matters relating to corruption. We must also see that this move that they are seeking to introduce has ways in which we can check members of their own when it comes to matters relating to this.
All right. Let me bring in Inusaf Hussaini, and then I'll reference some data when it comes to corruption. Inusaf Hussaini joins us on phone, former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Great. It's a pleasure having you join the conversation this morning. What do you make? What are your initial thoughts on this award system as proposed by the Speaker of Parliament to salute those who are incorruptible and also to name and shame, if you like, those who sully their hands. What do you think about it?
Well, initially, when I heard the announcement, and particularly the clip carried by your esteemed station, I was taken aback.
You were taken aback? Why?
Yes. Within the jurisdictional context of Parliament, what is Parliament seeking to do? What is it seeking to do? Because Parliament, as we know, Parliament, as an arm of government, has clear-cut jurisdiction. Representative jurisdiction, deliberative jurisdiction, and legislative jurisdiction. So what is it seeking to do? Where does an award scheme of Parliament fall into within this jurisdictional context?
Are you saying Parliament is... Go ahead.
Well, is what Parliament is seeking to do going to be confined with Parliament, members of Parliament, or the parliamentary service? Does it actually have jurisdiction to extend it beyond the boundaries of Parliament? Does it? How will it conflict with the award scheme instituted by the state and implemented through the executive? Are we crossing the boundaries? Would it bring about conflict? So these were my initial thoughts when I heard about it. And it is not the first time, actually, even though this particular suggestion appeared to be very grandiose. But the first attempt at looking at something like that was in 2019 by Speaker Marco Quay. But that was limited to Parliament, because Parliament faces a lot of challenges. Attendance to Parliament, work of committees, Parliament by itself, then the way Parliament carries, or members of Parliament carry themselves in the public, the way the parliamentarians respect the code of ethics of Parliament. So Speaker Marco Quay was thinking of instituting an incentive regime, of incentivizing those who were punctual to Parliament, who exhibited parliamentary decorum, and so on, so to serve as motivation for other members of Parliament to conduct themselves in such a way as to be recognized by Parliament as championing what Parliament stands for. But that even didn't see the light of the day. I mean, the first attempt at that failed woefully, because when certain individual members of Parliament were identified by Speaker Marco Quay to be awarded, they faced objection from other members of Parliament because they thought that if that thing went out, their constituents would interpret it to mean that those who were not awarded were not serious members of Parliament, and so that could go against them in their constituency. So it failed. It failed.
You do know...
That's the context within which I'm seeing this thing.
Right. Parliament has an anti-corruption arm, an anti-corruption office. The Speaker says, and we're starting just to get some snippets. I'll come to Vicky in the studio for her initial thoughts. But the idea of battling corruption is not one that is left for only one arm of government. And barring the key role of Parliament, which is legislation, and also the checks and balances that it must bring to bear on the two other arms of government, are you saying this would be such an act of straying from what Parliament must do in this setting?
I'm saying that the way the news has been carried, it appears to me the Parliament is going outside its prescribed boundaries to look at corruption as a national issue and award or recognize people who, in the words of the Speaker, are inspirational and who deserve recognition by Parliament, and also to condemn people who, in the words of the Speaker, are vultures and must be condemned in total. I think, with the greatest respect to the Speaker, that since Parliament is a microcosm of the entire body of the population, what Speaker should do is to limit what it intends to do within Parliament. Because there are many issues in Parliament that ought to be dealt with. There are many issues. There are perceptions of corruption. That's why Parliament established the office in the first place to fight corruption. So there are issues of corruption. There are issues of.
And to speak, you should start from home.
While respecting the limits of his authority, he should concentrate on ensuring that the Parliament itself shows by its activities, by its conduct, what they can do to enable the fight against corruption.
Pardon, I'm going back and forth with you because I want to exhaust some thoughts and then I'll come into the studio. My final bit to you briefly. Would it be okay if not Parliament, not the legislature, but the executive took this up and sort of fused it into the national awards, or the executive had another set of awards?
I would not have a problem with the executive fusing that up with the national awards scheme.
Why?
But then modalities. Because the nation and executive authority of state, Article 58, is vested in the president.
Okay.
If the president wants to champion the values of our country, to manifest it in an award scheme, as has been done in the national award scheme, and set up a standard, clear standard, which can be assessed, which can be, which clearly can enable us to hold those who do the award accountable based on the criteria for selection, I will have no problem.
Okay.
Because that clearly will be putting what we value, the values of society, in the national context, and ensuring that people who exhibit those values are recognized and awarded.
All right. Hold for me, Mr. Hussaini. Let me bring Vicky Bright into the fray. You've been quiet. You've listened to Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Sami Obeng, and Inusah Hussaini. What is your initial thinking on this proposal?
Well, Ben, I mean, for me, a corrupt society or a corrupt nation is a nation in decline. That's my starting point. And for many years, I guess we have all felt that we've lived in a bit of a swamp and we have to drain the swamp. So the Speaker constitutionally is the third most important person in this country. And I think if he's adding his voice and an initiative towards the fight against corruption, I personally don't have an issue with it. Okay. I do appreciate the point that Mr. Inusah Hussaini just made. However, I believe that, and of course, the executive can always take it up or do it in conjunction with Parliament. But I don't have a problem with it for the reasons I have given, because, it's become an existential threat. We can't develop if we don't tackle corruption. And we've had the institutions which have been set up by the executive. We have all of them, the OSP, IUCO, etc. We have the judiciary, you know, and we still, you know, here we are, 2025, we're still trying to fight the same thing. So if there's another angle by someone who constitutionally is very significant in our country, and he wants to initiate something that would help us towards this fight, then I'm all for it. I also like the idea of having this, the Pity one.
Because, awards.
Yeah, but of course we can't stop there. You know, I say this, but we don't yet have the details of how this thing is going to work. I mean, who's going to decide who wins the award? Is it an independent panel? Is it just parliamentarians? Who chooses those people? And what are the criteria for deciding who should be rewarded and who should not be rewarded? And also, do we just shame the person? What happens to that person? Do the anti-corruption agencies then pick that up and make sure that person is punished, not just named and shamed, etc.? So there are things that need to be tidied up around it, and there are details which we need to understand. But I think for me, as an initial reaction, I think it's a good initiative.
Our state awards, as we have them, and I know in recent years there have been complaints about the caliber of people who have received certain awards and for what reason they received the awards. The state awards, from the Order of the Volta to everything in between, how relevant are they? How expressive are they of the real picture that ordinary Ghanaians see from where you sit?
Well, I think a lot of Ghanaians can't actually relate to these awards, to be honest. I think there's nothing wrong with having state awards for outstanding citizens. But as you said, the problem has been the people, some of the people. Some have deservedly won some of these awards. But we also have a whole cross-section of people who you kind of sit there scratching your head wondering, well, why are they winning anything? Because maybe during their tenure, you don't really see what they've done in public service that deserves this kind of, you know, recognition. Because these are prestigious awards. And it must be so obvious when a person is named to receive one of these awards. It must be like, oh, but of course, they should get one.
It stands to reason.
Exactly. But we haven't always felt that way. And there have been people who have won these awards who, you know, their tenure was, you know, marred in corruption, allegations, or all sorts of issues which are really unbecoming of the position that they were holding as public officers. And yet, when all is said and done, they are awarded, some of them in the very highest categories. So that whole system needs to be probably sanitized in some way and made more. We should feel that it's a meritocracy, it's a meritocratic system rather than favorites of...
Have we not long gone past that meritocracy? Do we still have that in Ghana?
Well, in Ghana, sadly, we don't have that. At least not to the extent that we ought to help our nation to develop in the way it should. I mean, if you look at a nation like Singapore, I think they're about 62 years old. We are much older than they are. And yet, look at where they are and look at where we are. And we always cite that as an example. But look, it took a huge amount of effort for them to get to that point. So it can be done. When Lee Kuan Yew inherited Singapore, it was a very corrupt society, you know, but he made a decision. In fact, I was reading one of his books, and he said that during the inauguration, they intentionally wore white, him and his team, because they wanted to signify to the people of Singapore that they were going to run a pure government. And he did run a pure government. And it was a meritocratic system. And it has survived Lee Kuan Yew. 62 years on, is still one of the least corrupt nations in the world. So as for meritocracy, if we don't bring it back, we'll continue to be in trouble.
Dr. Osman Kwapong, you would listen to the likes of Asidun Ketia, chairman of the NDC, in the past, lampooning the erstwhile administration, talking about the fact that state awards are for people of distinction, not the likes of XYZ. I don't want to mention names, just to be fair to everybody. He would say it is not for people who come to loot and all of that. How relevant are these awards? Because I ask this from the context of people saying being patriotic in Ghana is no longer worth it because those who steal, who loot, they enjoy their booty. And if you try to stay on the path of the straight and narrow, you end up in poverty. What do you say to that?
But I think it's also important, though, that we recognize exemplary citizens, right? Yes, there are times where, as part of these national awards, certain individuals will come up for an award, and yes, you'd wonder the basis upon which they are giving the award, if not purely on political basis. But in general, these awards for me is important because you get to recognize exemplary citizens, you shine the light on them, and you hope that they become the kind of citizen that the rest of us would feel motivated, incentivized, encouraged to model our behavior after in the spaces that we find ourselves. Because you're right, there comes a point where citizens would begin to question whether it is even worth it to do anything, for their country. And what you don't want is to have patriotism decline to the point where the country doesn't matter to a critical mass of the people, that it's, myself first and whatever happens to my country can happen to my country. I think that would be a very dangerous point to get to as a country. And we need these moments, we need these kinds of awards and other kinds of strategies every so often to get people, to get citizens to not lose complete love for their country and the willingness to make some sacrifices for their country.
Well, even as I move on, you say we should not get there, but I think when it comes to corruption and fighting it and illegal mining and sand winning, I think we've got there already. We are there. Coming to you, Sami Obeng and Inusa Hussaini, I'll put this question together for both of you, and it stems from a remark that was sent to me. So a submission. This is from a former vice chancellor of a public university. I will not mention his name, but a former vice chancellor of a public university. He says, if Parliament is to be taken seriously on this anti-corruption bid, they must first remove the speck in their eyes, or maybe the log in their eyes. Everyone knows 4 specific instances where they demanded money from me, and I refused to pay. In one instance, I suffered the consequences because I couldn't get the issue through. They must get serious. This is a submission from, like I said, a former vice chancellor of a public university. I will not mention his name. So my question then to you, starting with you, Sami Obeng, is Parliament a good role model to even be talking about this, to start this conversation? Is Parliament a good role model? Mr. Obeng? All right, I hear his feed is frozen. So let me start with you, Inusa Hussaini, on that point.
Parliament definitely is not, by the recent events, is not definitely a good model. I think that what we need to do is to review the whole award system in this country and try to establish an independent body that would advise the president on persons who have worked hard enough to deserve recognition by the state for such awards. When we leave everything to the discretion of the executive, you will find that level of bastardization that has accompanied our national award schemes over the years. Vicky says, yes, Singapore, and if you read the story of Lee Kuan Yew, you will not fail to recognize that there was a deliberate, conscious effort by his government, the People Action Party, to win the trust and confidence of the people. And so when they all agreed, all persons who were in leadership positions and the party agreed that they were going to fight corruption and they were going to stand up to corruption, and that no one was going to shield any person from corrupt activities. That was what happened. There's a story that is told of a minister who was being investigated by the Special Office of the Special Prosecutor, and that minister ran to Lincoln U to take his assistance in stopping the investigation. What Lincoln U simply told the minister was that that was the agreement they all entered into, not so that no one will be shielded from investigations of corrupt activities. And so he should go face the investigation, and that if he succeeded, then he comes back to government. In fact, the minister committed suicide. That's what happened. The minister committed because he was going to be shamed by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and he thought the way out was to commit suicide. And so you need really a determined, committed people, a leadership to implement policies that will simply move us out of corruption. And it's true.
Right.
The parliament itself has not conducted itself well at all. And the perception of corruption in parliament is very deep-seated. Recently, we all heard how parliament approved 200,000 Ghana cedis for the implementation of educational-related programs in the various constituencies of parliament, and gave each member of parliament 150,000 Ghana cedis to monitor the 200,000 cedis project of parliament. Tell me, how does that play out in the public? So clearly, parliament has to go its act. I mean, well, it has to improve upon the performance of its responsibilities to be able to win the confidence of the people that what they intend doing will be meritorious.
Right.
Second, thirdly, the speaker actually, yes, he's the third most important person in the ranking within the Constitution. But his role is really to ensure, to preside over parliamentary proceedings and to represent the third arm of government, or an arm of government, not the third, an arm of government, which is the legislature. But because we cannot be without a head, a country cannot be without a head. So in the absence of the president, the vice president, you will still need a head. And so the Constitution says the lot should fall on the speaker for a very limited time to conduct the affairs of state.
Thank you for those comments. Let me go to Samuel Bing on that. Is Parliament a good role model in any way? And should that also bar them from saying, well, we may not be the best of models, but how can we sanitize the system, starting from home? Your take, Samuel Bing.
Well, it's great that these feedback are coming. Parliament itself must use some of these feedback as a way of sitting right and ensuring that it does some form of house cleaning. For every award scheme, the integrity of the issuers of the award, so to speak, plays a very important role in how respected the award will be, or the opposite is also true. And so if an institution, the perception in the public space of one that itself has, corruption indications, one that, people cannot trust, one that people have stories like the one you have just read, having come from the former vice chancellor, then it creates a big problem for that institution to be able to be seen to be the ones championing the fight against corruption. Certainly, there is a lot that Parliament itself must do to have a better perception, public perception, about its ability to stand against corruption, to deal with corruption. That's why in my preliminary remarks, I had mentioned that beyond what Parliament is proposing, I want to see how the criteria, the strategy, the systems that are put in place for this award scheme would also include Parliament itself. Because certainly we cannot have Parliament championing an award system where the Parliament itself, whether from the political aspect of Parliament, so the MPs and the politicians and the Speaker himself, or the parliamentary service, has, issues of corruption hanging around its neck. So certainly there must be some house cleaning. Certainly there must be the taking of the log off people's eyes or the institution's eyes to be able to want to stretch its tentacles into the other spaces. And Parliament must be seen to be doing that. For me, I think it's impressive that the institution, having identified this and under the leadership of Speaker Babin and the parliamentary service, has set up the anti-corruption office with very distinguished persons who understand these things in there to advise the Speaker, to advise the House on these matters. But it mustn't be left at advice only. It mustn't be left at talking about it only, innovative ideas only. It must be seen to be manifested in the way that Parliament operates, in the way that citizens perceive Parliament, and some of these acts of corruption that are leveled against parliamentary committees that are doing parliamentary work must be seen to be dealt with head on, so that Parliament is not seen as one that just covers up when these allegations are made. We should have an institution that should be seen to be dealing with these things head on, so that the citizens of Ghana can trust it as the people's house that is really seeking to do the people's business.
Let's look at it from the standpoint of leadership. Inusaf Hussaini made mention of it. And Vicky, I want to start with you. Please, I want bite-sized responses to this one so that all of you, same question. The former Vice Chancellor I was just speaking of sends in another message, and he says, how can the Public Accounts Committee, that is the PAC, demand money for people who appear before them? And in the past there have been some allegations. And he's asking, I don't know what his experience has been, but he says, how can the Public Accounts Committee demand money from people who appear before them? Of course, then there would have been breaches. The Auditor General has highlighted them, and they come before the Public Accounts Committee. It's interesting because James Kluchavezi, who headed this committee, has in recent times been talking about people who have fallen foul of the law, who have not been prosecuted under the erstwhile administration, calling on the current AG to deal with the situation. Then you have former President Akufo-Addo, who would say, if you want to enrich yourself and all of that, not in my administration. We saw what we did. The current president, Mahama, has said, if you want to be in my government, don't engage in illegal mining or try to enrich yourself through illegal means. But do all of these mean anything? Are we getting the leadership?
Well, as my fellow panelists have said, and I wholly agree, leadership is critical to this fight against corruption. Certainly, if the Public Accounts Committee is demanding money for people who are appearing before that committee, then that is something that has to be seriously looked at. And, just briefly talking about Parliament, even the process for electing our MPs is problematic, and we all know the allegations of corruption there. People have been forced to buy their seats, so when they get into Parliament, they feel they have to find a way to make up for the monies they've borrowed, etc., etc. We have had successive leaders talk about rooting out corruption. We have all the laws beautifully written, and the problem has always been whether we are practicing what we are preaching, whether we are walking the talk, because as for the talking, we all talk very well. So I really believe that we need to go beyond that. We need to start taking proper actions to really strengthen our institutions beyond just the rhetoric. When I was growing up as a child, process was respected. So if someone was wealthy, everyone was interested in how they acquired that wealth before deciding whether they deserve to be respected or not. Now, it's the other way around. People look at the money and then they give instant respect based on the money, irrespective of the process for achieving that wealth. And so, I mean, that has to be stopped because it's affecting every facet of our society. And it's not a good example for our youth. Because there are people coming out of university and expecting to have a $200,000 four-wheel drive and a house in Trasacco or airport or wherever, etc., and they would do anything to achieve that. And so if such a person finds themselves in a position, in occupying a public position, and it's not far-fetched, we have people occupying some of these positions who really have no business being there. They just put their hands in the kitty and they take whatever they feel they need to take to enrich themselves, and there are really no consequences. And that's the problem. There has to be consequences. There have to be consequences for this. People have to know that it's a zero-tolerance zone. Corruption has to be a zero-tolerance zone with real consequences, with shaming, you know, naming and shaming and proper punishment.
Interestingly, the man under whom you served, President Kufuor, he introduced the term zero tolerance for corruption.
Yes.
Later, he would tell us corruption has been with us since the days of Adam. It's well, interesting, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, I don't think any society can completely eradicate corruption. But we have to get it down to a level which will allow development to go on. It has to be a high-risk, low-reward activity.
Right.
Right now, it's not perceived as such.
Okay. Let me quickly take the thoughts of the other gentleman joining the conversation, and then I will play something from Johnson Esiedun Ketia in a bit. But for now, let me take quick thoughts from Dr. Osai Kwapong, Sami Obeng, and Inusa Fuseni. Starting with you, Doc.
Yes. As Madam Vicky Bright said, leadership is crucial. I mean, I know that president after president have made different kinds of statements in terms of their commitment to the fight against corruption. And then we see here cases of alleged corruption in their administration. One of the things that I think we also need to do is in-regime accountability. So I think we are good at post-regime accountability, where once there's a turnover election, a new government begins to look into the activities of a previous government. Where we have not done too well is in-regime accountability, where a government in power is able to hold its own persons accountable for acts of alleged corruption. And I think that is the other dimension of the fight that we also need to begin to look at, how we can use the tools available to be able to fight that. Because once the horses bolt out of the stable, it becomes sometimes very difficult to retrieve whatever has been lost due to some of these acts of alleged corruption. So if you can fight it whilst you're in power, would be another effective way to combat this issue.
Right. Let's do Sami Obeng.
Yeah, it is bad enough to have committees of parliament pledged to be taking monies from, people that appear before them. But it is terrible if there is an allegation, and it is proven to be true, of a public accounts committee, one of the significant tools available to parliaments and parliamentarians in fighting corruption, to be said to be collecting or taking monies from people who appear before. And I have not, in my many years of working within the parliamentary space, had this angle of PAC, as you are reading from your distinguished viewer. And I think things like this are the reasons why Parliament has set up the internal structures to be able to address some of these, allegations that come up. And Parliament must be seen to be addressing them head on. I think that it is not enough that Parliament has set up the anti-corruption office. It is important that it makes it public. The people of Ghana gets to know about it. It is important that there are mechanisms so that people like the ex-VC who you say is texting on this subject matter knows that there is an office that I can take some of these evidence to, and it will be taken seriously, and the public will know what the results have been after the investigation, and Parliament will deal with these matters. Without which, the institution of Parliament, sadly, will continue to remain one that has not got very good public perception. And if that house, which is supposed to be the house of you and I, representing all of us in lawmaking and oversight and representation, has terrible perception about the very people who have given them the jobs to go do, then that is recipe for disaster.
All right. I'll take brief thoughts from Inus Hussaini while acknowledging that we've also been joined by anti-graft campaigner Vitus Azim. Mr. Azim, I'll be with you shortly. Inus Hussaini, on this quick point, quick thoughts? Mr. Hussaini, are you with us? Okay, I can't hear you in the studio. I don't know why that is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Now, the elephant in the room is the prevailing view of the predatory nature of politics. That many people enter politics to secure their self-interest, and they will do whatever they can to manifest their intentions to secure their self-interest. Now, until we are able to align our self-interest with the interest of the state, which interest of the state is captured in the aspirations of the Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity and prosperity for the generality of Ghanaians, we will always have to grapple with this matter.
Okay.
We all know that people have entered politics, and after a short period of time, their lifestyle are such that we are unable to reconcile them with their status before they entered politics. And so until we do that, and it's only leadership that can do that. Leadership is critical. So yes, what is his name? The leader of Movement for Change, Alan Trementen, has said that in Ghana, it's NATO. No action, talk only. Probably we need to come to Tano. Talk and action.
Interesting point you make. And on the bit about people entering politics just to enrich themselves, you remind me, this morning I'm being charitable, I don't want to mention names, of the lady who came and, she said, oh, me, all I need is $1 million. You know whom I'm talking about. Good morning to you. Let me bring in Vitus Azim. He's joined the conversation. Mr. Azim, when you contemplate where we are as a country in the fight against corruption and what the Speaker is proposing, how does it sit with you?
Well, fighting corruption is corruption is a phenomenal issue that is so not easy to deal with. And so we need to look at various aspects of dealing with it. So what the Speaker has said is a welcome initiative that may help. Of course, it wouldn't curb it completely, but it may help in the fight against corruption. So I will support it. It's not the first time that this speaker or a speaker has mentioned something in regards to this. Some time ago, they prepared a code of conduct for parliamentarians. I was part of that. I think that time the speaker was then a minority leader one time. So these are steps that we need to take, but we take them half-heartedly. We initiate something, we don't pursue it, and then at the end of the day, it will have been a waste of time and effort. So if the speaker is serious about it, we need to do something that will be binding on subsequent speakers and subsequent parliamentarians. if you just do something for the next 4 years, and there's no commitment on the part of the rest of the people, and after the 4 years, it is shelved, then it would have just been a waste of time. So this is how I look at it, but it's a good initiative.
Do you think this should be something that should be spearheaded by Parliament? Some disagree. They feel there's a log in the eye of Parliament and that it should take care of that before trying to take the speck out of the eyes of corrupt society, so to speak. Some say the executive should be handling this, not Parliament. What do you think?
You see, according to our constitution, Parliament is supposed to be exercising oversight over the executive. Unfortunately, Parliament is not able to do this very well. And Parliament and parliamentarians themselves are sometimes involved in things that do not make us citizens convinced that it will be the right body to lead the fight against corruption. For example, I just wrote something on my Facebook this week. Parliamentarians are allocating resources to themselves from the GET Fund, from the Judicial Assembly's Common Fund, from the National Health Insurance Fund to go and to implement programs. And even further allocating more resources themselves to now go and monitor those the implementation of those projects.
We just mentioned them, 200,000 for an initiative, 150,000 to a member of Parliament to monitor the initiative.
Yeah, these don't convince some of us that they are going to be able to do any good thing, because even the project whom they are going to award the contract to may be somebody within the party or a supporter or somebody. How are you going to ensure that the project is well executed? So they themselves cannot be completely clean of it. So when you're asking them to, or when they're trying to claim to lead it, the fight against corruption, there is some amount of reservation in the perception of some of us.
But people of Ghana, in executing this, how do we go about it to get it into a proper shape, proper form? Last year, Esiodun Ketia, who is now chairman of the National Democratic Congress, had a take on these national awards and even how shambolic in some instances they are and why we need a national committee to sit on some of these matters. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The award ceremony that happened yesterday has cleared all the doubt that all the wrong things that were happening, all the wrong things that were committed by the appointees of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo were actually endorsed by the big man himself. Otherwise, why would anybody with his head properly screwed on award people like this former Kaswa MP, who is he? Ayew for shooting and killing Ghanaians during elections? Why? Why should anybody be awarding a state honor to Brother Champo? Why? In fact, I feel cheated because the people of Brahafo deserve to have one of the honors conferred on Abronye, our regional chairman. And I believe that the people of Ashanti will also complain about why Chairman Wontumi was not awarded. Have we forgotten about the significance of state awards? It's been said that a nation that does not award its heroes is not worth dying for. So state awards are serious businesses. They must be reserved for people of distinction, people who have fought for a good cause, And if we award state honors to vigilante boys and girls, then that is what we are teaching the youth. That after all, it is all right to pick weapons and shoot at people. That after all, it is all right to loot state coffers when you are given the opportunity to serve as a minister. I want to suggest to the rest of Ghanaians that it is about time that we establish a proper committee backed by law that will help to determine who should earn a national award.
That's Johnson Ayew Nketia coming into the studio. A proper committee, established, guided by law to do this. I guess in a way to wrest it from the hands of political actors. You're a doyen of the law. What would be your take on that? Well,
it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I believe that there should be an independent entity that's conferring these awards to Ghanaians who have served with distinction and with honor in their roles. And because if you don't do it that way, then the system is then capable of being corrupt in itself. The actual...
What would this independent entity or committee look like? And I ask from the standpoint of, look, someone is talking about PAC and alleging that even at the Public Accounts Committee level, there could be some shadiness. You've seen at the vetting of ministerial nominees where there have been claims and people called or hauled before the committee to answer for some claims made. So can we trust any such entity to do a fine job? Is that to say those people will be completely neutral or what?
Yes, I think we can do, depending on the members on the committee. The instances you cited are political committees of some sort. We have to take politics out of this thing. If it's a national award, then upstanding members of society, captains of industry, there are people who we all know have actually really championed this fight against corruption. I mean, look at someone like Patrick Ayew at Ashesi University. And actually, Ashesi, I believe, is one of the institutions that can work with government to maybe help with the whole issue of ethical leadership, because that is what underpins an Ashesi education. So I don't think it should be political. I think it's the politics that actually then leads us down a certain path which we have to avoid. And it should be something that every Ghanaian can identify with and actually looks forward to seeing, who's winning it this year, etc., etc. So we have to depoliticize this whole award system.
I hear you say we should nationalize, right, and like you're saying, depoliticize. So make it national. Make it something that is ethical. Take away the politics. But at the same time, these actors who may be part of the group may not be outwardly political, but they would have their political sentiments. How that will influence anything, I cannot say. Let me bring in another lawyer, Inusaf Hussaini. What would be your response to what Ayew Nketia says? How would you reflect on it?
The whole matter must go beyond the executive or parliament to a committee setting up standards and criteria for selecting the people.
Okay.
And I agree with Vicky Bright. I mean, effective and ethical leadership is still known for good governance. And so that governance regime surrounding the choice of persons for award should be ethical, should be fair, should be transparent, should inspire confidence in the people and acceptability. And to do that, you need a dispassionate, impartial body to know that their duty is to identify people who have contributed significantly towards the growth and development of this country and need to be recognized and appreciated. But when you take it into the political realm and start recognizing politicians who in the first place have been given the privilege to serve by the people, who have question marks over their conduct while in office, you debase the whole system of national awards. And that's why after the awards, watch the newsprints. The event only makes it to the media on the first day and dies off. The media is not even interested in going behind to look at the profiles of those who have won the national awards as a way to inspire the up-and-coming generations, because the media itself has questions over the award schemes. This is not the way to go. There are national heroes scattered all over the country. There are national heroes in the public service who have dedicated all their lives serving this country. There are national heroes in the judiciary. There are even national heroes in parliament. But when we fail to identify and recognize them, we lose them. And we lose an appreciation of what they have done to contribute to the development of this country. So I agree entirely with Chairman Johnson Ayew Nketia. Let's move the award scheme from the domain of the executive to a committee who will come up with a standard, a criteria for selecting those people for awards and expose them to scrutiny by another group to ensure that they've gotten their selection criteria right.
Interesting thoughts. I mean, some of those people we should award, and the awards can come in different ways. Some of you will remember Rebecca Nadede Ayete, popularly known as Dede Ashikisha. The one you see on the 50 pesewa coin. And the role she played in terms of even in Nkrumah when he was incarcerated and the votes were cast. And these were the women who basically stood in the gap when men were running away, were fleeing. And at least she's been honored with that bit, being on the 50 pesewa coin. What do we do? Have we
honored Philip Beho? Have we honored Philip Beho, who wrote our national anthem?
Ifremamu and the others.
Ifremamu, have we honored him, who wrote the Yera Assassinate? Have we? So these are the things that we, and to tell them that, to tell the people, the up-and-coming generation, that these people inspired hope, nationalism, and patriotism in us. That this is what we stand for, love for country. So these are the things that we're talking about.
Right. Professor
Nketia. To compile a list of those who have given opportunities to serve in government and award them for serving in government.
Interesting points you make. I mean, the likes of Professor Nketia and others, may their souls rest in peace, have come and done their bit. But let me bring you in, Vitus Azim, on this point. Is this committee going to be the solution, as proposed by Johnson Ayew Nketia? I believe we've lost Vitus Azim. Let me come to Samuel Obeng on that point.
You know, it is important that we are having conversations around how not to do things so far as, you know, conferring national awards are concerned. And it's really, really concerning when, you know, the highest awards of states are conferred on individuals and members of that same state have reason to doubt why person A, B, or C are being given the awards. We've seen this over the years. The last awards that were conferred, you know, brought in significant backlash on why certain people should even get any close to some of these national awards. And for me, any step that would help address the challenge of how this is being done, how to restore back the integrity of the award system should be encouraged. And bringing it back home to the conversation around Parliament's own awards scheme, I think these are lessons to be learned by Parliament on how people do not expect some of these things to be done, how not to do some of these things, and to get Parliament from the onset ensuring that they put in the right mechanisms and measures to make the award scheme that they intend to introduce one that is credible. We know that Parliament itself has a way of pushing back against certain things that gets done which they think it's not really in their interest, and has a way of affecting their political issues. Honorable Inusef Hussaini mentioned how some of the award schemes they had wanted to introduce earlier received a pushback from members of Parliament. We know that assessment mechanisms like the one Odikro had on members of Parliament, received a lot of pushback from members of Parliament themselves, because they felt that naming and shaming them for underperformance in Parliament was a way to make them lose their elections. If these experiences exist in the past, then right from the onset, they must do things right. We expect to see credible criteria, credible sets of people who are going to be superintending over this, measures that only does not look at the executive branch, but also looks at the Parliament itself. And I think these things should be prioritized going forward.
Very interesting. I'll take your remarks on that, and then we'll also look at the voucher awards, which is the other side, the other component of what he proposes. Dr. Osai Kwapong.
Yes, I mean, I agree with all of the sentiments that have been shared, which is you need some kind of national independent body or group, or a group of persons who would set out very clear criteria, even allow the general public to send in nominations and reasons for why they are nominating a particular individual. Have that independent group of people go through it and select those who are, quote unquote, merit this kind of national recognition and national awards. If you're able to do that, then you depoliticize the award. Because if you realize, whenever these national awards happen, some of the political persons who end up getting awarded overshadow certain individuals whose work get recognized. So the conversation ends up about the politically exposed persons, whether they deserve it or not. And we even forget to talk about the good works that other...
And you're right. And you're right. When Erastus got awarded, some people felt he shouldn't have even accepted it because of the caliber of some people who watered down the award. But Erastus, no one can say he was not deserving. But because of other people who received the awards, people felt it had watered down the relevance of the award.
Precisely. So hopefully, if you are able to approach the process this way, it takes away some of these, incidents, just like the example you just provided, right? That recognizing the work of Erastus is not overshadowed by who else he had to share the stage with, that some in the general public had concerns, issues about.
And I don't know whether I have Vitus Azim, but when you look at, right before we go to the Voucher Awards or Opete Awards, well, just the general point, if you look at the perception index over time, you would realize that, of course, 100 is excellent, 0 is the worst that you can have. From about 45, which has been our highest, and 43, which we've had, you look at 2017, and we had the lowest within this band of 40. And then in 2024, the second lowest that we've had. Of course, it's a year feeding into the next year. I don't know how that reflects, because if you look at it year on year, 2023, we placed 70th. In 2024, we placed 80th. We lost 10. We fell by 10 spots. I don't know, but it doesn't appear this fight, at least per the CPI, is being won. Is it?
It is real, or corruption is real. The fight has to also be real. Whatever we're doing is not working. It's not working well, and we have to up the ante, as it were. Look, we've had 2 successive OSP bosses say they have not been well resourced. We have to resource these anti-corruption agencies and support them. All arms of government have to support them, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary in this fight. So for me, it's we need a multifaceted approach. I mean, you look at places like Rwanda where they have this annual Durbar of all ministers, and they invite people, like you and I, to come and sit in and actually judge the ministers on their performance. Each minister has to do a public accounting of what they've done in their department, how they've done it, etc., etc. So it's a forever fight, and it has to have, it's a multi-pronged, we have to have a multifaceted approach to this thing, because there are indices. You've got Transparency International here, we've got the Ghana Integrity Initiative and others. And we, it's not something we can hide. I mean, just over the weekend, we learned that, over 1,340 food containers had just disappeared from the port. How is that possible? If there's not a concerted thing or arrangement to actually steal these things, and that is what it is, it's pure theft, and the audacity of the theft, the magnitude of the theft and the cost to Ghanaians. I mean, ECG is one of our institutions that is perpetually in debt.
Some have estimated over $480 million
yes, in debt. And we are all suffering for it. I mean, you feed the money into the meter, these new meters, and it literally disappears. So everybody, this corruption thing is affecting each and every Ghanaian citizen. And how do 40-foot containers move from Tema Port to Tamale? I mean, look at the distance. And so someone has to be held accountable,
right,
and has to be punished. So as long as we are shielding these people, because can you imagine the number of people involved in actually, this is organized crime.
It is.
Yeah. Can you imagine the number of players in this thing alone? And that's just one example, just one. So we need to be serious about fighting corruption. We need to tackle it impartially. We need to introduce a society where process is respected, where we have meritocracy, and where every Ghanaian does not aspire to being a politician just to enrich themselves and their families.
And, as we cap off the conversation, something that comes to mind on the back of what you said, if an excavator is moving through town, let's say from Accra to some rural area where mining happens, there would have to be some stops at some point to check, where are your documents, what is this for, and all of that.
Yes.
These containers, were there any security officers, whether immigration, customs, along the way, police, who would stop and say, okay, where's your bill of lading? What's the proof that this container, what does it contain, and all of that? It appears there are a lot of systems. You said organized crime, and I agree with you. There are a lot of systems that don't work, or a lot of collusion to allow rot to happen. But ladies and gentlemen, final thoughts would also, the other aspect, vulture awards or Opete awards. In the US, they have the Oscars for the good, and then the Raspberry or Razzies for poor performing movies. Maybe this will be that kind of initiative. What do you think? And then you add your final words to it. Dr. Osai Kwapong, back to you.
Yeah, it reminds me the movies. My older daughter, anytime I bring up a movie, she would say, "Oh, Daddy, but it got X number of Rotten Tomatoes," because then it tells you that the movie I'm raving about is really not a good movie. So it's just interesting. I guess it's to say we would recognize and praise those who have been doing the right thing, and we would shame those who have been doing the wrong thing. And hopefully that naming and shaming would create a disincentive for others, because who wants to be named and shamed publicly? At least you would hope that nobody wants to be named and shamed publicly. But I think the bigger, the overarching issue is continued efforts to try and stop corruption. And if you look at the ongoing conversations, especially after what we've learned about ECG containers and the port issue, it's mind-blowing, it's baffling. I say to myself, I can sneak a pen past you in your studio, right? By hiding it in my pocket. But we are talking containers that just can't walk off, by themselves. But I think there's been at least from what I'm observing, there's been some kind of a shock effect that says to us, we really need to up the ante when it comes to our efforts in trying to fight corruption.
Thank you very much, Dr. John Osai-Kwapo. Sammy?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting component, the vulture component of the award scheme. Yes, I dare say that wherever vultures are who needs to be hunted down, whether in Parliament, the executive, or wherever, they certainly need to be hunted down. There is a benefit to awards that names to fame, so those who are doing amazing stuff. And there is also a purpose for awards that names to shame, so that people know that you don't want to find yourself in that category that has been named by your country's legislative arm as being very corrupt or having done very bad things to our country. But with all said and done, I think the point we have all made consistently here is that for such awards to be credible, for it to add up to the corruption fight, it's got to have systems and mechanisms that goes to entrench its credibility. Parliament must make sure that it puts these systems in place. There is no point rushing through a process that eventually comes out and it will lack in integrity, it will lack in public perception. And so it's got to be done and got to be done right. And I think that there are many fine brains around in our country that will be willing and able to support Parliament through this process. But by all means, Parliament, as part of its oversight responsibility, must look at ways in which it helps in the overall fight against corruption. And this, if it will be one of those ways, so be it.
Thank you, Samuel Obeng. Inusaf Hussaini. Hello, Mr. Hussaini.
Recklessness, malfeasance, and wastage, because the institutions that we have created to ensure that we hold people accountable are weak and corrupt by themselves. And in a democracy, where do the institutions set up to ensure accountability are corrupt and weak, it will manifest in the society, in the generality of the society. And that is what is happening in Ghana. Now, I also don't want the vulture award. Yes, I mean, you are trying to name and shame people who are not living up to expectation. But I don't want the name vulture, because we are giving the vulture a bad name. I mean, the vulture is a very useful bird.
I was about to say as well.
Very useful bird. And then we are still steeped in the old narrative of the vulture being a rotten or bad bird. But it's a useful bird. In fact, because we are losing the vultures, that's why we now have pests and diseases all over the place, because they are scavengers.
Yeah, they clean up after us.
Yes, they clean up the society. So, yes, I think that we should name and shame. In naming and shaming, all the anti-corruption institutions must be seen to be working. The overbearing influence of the executive on these anti-corruption institutions must be reduced to ensure that they can be independent and really hold people accountable who are looking over their shoulders. Ensure that Parliament is seen to be doing what is right in the circumstances. And I cite the example of the former governor of the Bank of Ghana. How do you violate laws of this country and ensure by your activities that you put more than 1 billion people back into poverty? Back into poverty, just by your activities. And so who was mandated under the law to hold the governor of the Bank of Ghana in check to ensure that the laws that say you can print more than 5% of the previous year's revenue is complied with? And until we're able to do such things, or you are talking about ECG, the issue of the containers is just the manifestation of the rot. How come that the management of ECG were able to procure that large number of containers? What was the procurement for? That after importing the containers, procuring the equipment, they were unable to clear them. What informed that decision? And so there are a lot of systematic problems in this country that, if not addressed, will be skirting around the issues.
All right. Thank you, Yunus Hussaini, for joining the conversation. You have the final word in some 30 seconds, and then we're gone. And let me just let you know that right after this interaction, we'll be opening up the conversation to you. Yes, you, the ordinary Ghanaian. What do you think about all of these developments? How do we move the country forward? What do you think about the awards? Vicky, final words.
Yes, thank you, Ben. I agree with everything my fellow panelists have said. And yes, the vulture is probably an unfortunate name because they actually do good things for us. But yes, there should be naming and shaming and punishment. Naming, shaming, and punishment. We have to have this committee that we're all talking about, depoliticize it, and I keep on going on about meritocracy. It's very, very important. It's a critical part of the process. And let's try to root out corruption and allow development to happen in this country.
Vicky Bright is a top-achieving legal brain, a philanthropist. She's also former legal advisor to ex-president Ayew Kufuor. Yunus Hussaini is former member of parliament, Tamale Central. Dr. John Osai Kwapong is a CDD fellow. Samuel Bing is executive director, Parliamentary Network Africa. And Vitus Azim, who joined us momentarily, is an anti-graft campaigner. All of them joined us for this conversation. My question to you, though, before we take a breather and open the phone lines, are you ready to dream, dare, and deliver in the world of IT? Well, look no further than the Jackson Institute of Technology, the only NIT authorized training center in Ghana. At JIT, we provide world-class IT training for individuals and corporate organizations, equipping you with industry-relevant skills in software development, cybersecurity, networking, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, digital marketing, and a whole lot more. We also offer globally recognized certifications, practical job-ready training, and flexible hybrid learning options, which allows you to study online or on-site. Our expert instructors ensure hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for success in today's digital world. Conveniently located on the Ring Road and near Circle in the heart of Accra's Central Business District, and in Kumasi at the Jackson Educational Complex HQ at Yadriasi near the KNUST, JIT provides easy access for students and corporate clients. Our state-of-the-art auditorium is also available for corporate events, seminars, and training sessions. Call or WhatsApp us on these numbers: 0596 996 037 or 0596 996 038 or 0552 714 635. You can also visit our website at www.jit.edu.gh. JIT, your gateway to a thriving IT career. The phone lines are active now, and the number to call is 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. Reach out and let's know what's on your mind. And here we are back on the AM show. You know how we do it. We're activating the phone lines now, and you can call through and share your thoughts. I've seen some interesting submissions made this morning on the back of our conversation. But what are your thoughts? Do you think these awards would serve any purpose in terms of streamlining or fighting against corruption, as I should say? This is what Speaker Bagbin has proposed, and this wouldn't be the first time in 2019 some semblance of a proposal. But he says we should have awards to celebrate those who are honorable, those who are incorruptible, and also voucher awards to not denigrate, but to also let people, expose people who engage in the negative. What do you think? And the conversations that we've had, what do you make? Do you agree with Johnson Esidu Nketia that we should have that national committee, devoid of politics, set up so that they can then decide who deserves to be awarded? 0302-211-691. We have our first caller, Fatal, from Kaswa. Good morning, Fatal.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm good. Happy Salah.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yes. You see, this country, I think it's not helping. Particularly those companies that look very rich, look very rich. Like people who live in it are like selfish. They want to make money for themselves. Just look at DVLA, for instance. Okay, you are not selling. What are you actually selling? Just your savings keke. Selling savings keke. It's not like you are buying goods and then you bought it and then you make some loss or something like that. But people starting interest. Look at the debt that they are accruing. 300 million Ghana cedis. Where from this debt? What at all are you selling? Are you selling at all? Savings keke. Then just look at the port. The container that got missing. You can imagine. Look, people they need to sack people just from A to Z. Those who are procurement, the management who are doing those, they should sack all of them. In fact, this is just like our baby. Because why we say why? Why can you bring containers like this? Even when you say you brought these containers and then you don't need the goods, don't worry, put them down. Tomorrow, 10 years ago, you need them because I am pro and say no expiring date. So why are you going to? Why are you saying that? Oh, you import them and it was over what from above, from something from above? What kind of language is it? What is it? No, so these are called leaders. How can these be leaders?
Your call has been put.
All right, thank you for your thoughts, Fatal from Kaswa. We have Joseph from Obuase joining the conversation. Joseph, what are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. I want to contribute to what Honorable Minister Fuseni said at the beginning of the show when he said the Speaker should concentrate on putting the parliament's right.
Go ahead and make your point. Mm-hmm.
It made me curious to think about what happened at the Select Committee, that brouhaha, confusion that they said the committee and even another committee that should investigate that one too. There was another problem. The minority failed to contribute. And also that name calling of a daughter of a murderer and all that they say committee. We've not heard anything about it. So that is where I'm curious about. We want to know whatever that happens in Parliament. They are the honorable people. In fact, there's an arm of government that we look up to. So when things happen and the public want to know, they should make things clear so that we can believe them. Other than that, sometimes their integrity is at stake. So I was very much happy when Minister Fuseni said they should concentrate on the parliamentary issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts. We have Mustafa from Tamale Central. Mustafa, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Please.
I think the suggestion that the MP and the Speaker of Parliament and the Assistant Secretary is a good idea, but it can't work. The only thing that can work is the prosecution. Receive them and give them 50 years. So whoever thinks that saw what they have jailed Mr. 80 years, he will not commit, and he or she will not commit any crime again. So any commission or any award cannot solve a problem. Look at the number of containers that Lord needs in the port. So if I'm going to take the award that I'm going to give, if I say maybe they must be money on our, do we think the money that I can reach can go compare the number of containers and the money? See, the money container that the cost of the container money can more than the award that I'm going to give you. So people prefer to pay more money and go free. So award cannot solve the problem. The only thing that can solve the problem is to jail them and receive all the money from them. We're not serious as a country. On all these things, look at the number of containers. People are coming out to support what they do, to defend the those leaders. Where are we heading to? So the only thing that we can do as a nation is to jail the number of years that maybe he or he can rot in the jail. So that the others also will learn lessons from them. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your thoughts. Niamate is in Dome. He joins the conversation. Niamate, what are your thoughts?
Dome Sampama. Yes. Good morning, my brother. The missing issue is a very serious one. So I urge the minister to actually punish the people involved, especially the minority leader. And then he was the board chairman by then. They should hold them responsible. They shouldn't make it friendly issue and then leave it there. It's very, very serious. How do 1,000 over containers get missing? So please, they should take this matter seriously. They are all watching. They are watching the minister seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We have Abdullah from Salaga. Hello, Abdullah.
Hello, good morning, sirs.
Good morning. Please, what are your thoughts for us?
This program is that we are worried about the securities issue. You know, all the way from Tema to Tamale, it's a long way. I don't know having securities. So meaning that the leaders who are leading everything, they are now killing us. The honorable woman will go and see all the securities, enclose them by giving them something, so that to disclose everything. So if you're not serious about it, every year it will continue like that, and then finally Ghana will run into loss. This is my suggestion. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts as well. You can also call in and let us know what you think. 0302 211 691 extension 2. 0302 211 691 extension 2. How do we resolve this matter? How do we stem the tide of the decay, the sewage of decay that is, that has beset us? How do we deal with it? 0302 211 691 extension 2. Let us know what your thoughts are, and then we shall take it from there. I have a comment that comes through. Christopher says, the national awards do little to address corruption in Ghana. Minister X seems indifferent to the fact that Minister Y could receive a national award while benefiting from $1 million in corrupt money. The voucher awards don't really do much either. The most effective solution is to establish a system that makes corruption impossible. I went to the police station a month ago and was charged 1,000 cedis for the police to arrest someone encroaching on my land. I was not given a receipt and the payment had to be made in cash. Where is that money going? There are countless instances where funds end up in the pockets of individuals instead of being directed back to the state through proper channels. Finally, we must not allow politicians to tell us how to stop corruption. Independent Ghanaians should make suggestions on how to fight corruption. That's Christopher from East Lagos sending in that message. We have Fatau. Is it the same Fatau who called earlier? Fatau, good morning.
Yes, my phone was a problem. That's why I could not complete my statement.
All right, Fatau, your thoughts?
Yes. So my worry is that why is it that DVL doesn't sell like goods, like I'm buying goods and I've lost or something, just a service keke. But they are able to accrue some loss about 300,000 Ghana cedis. What kind of human beings are they? No, why? People who are mature say, oh, they are professors, they are what have you. They've learned book, but they'll go and sit down there and make a big loss and put it down that, okay, that is their legacy. Someone should come and inherit it. What is the meaning of that? Just look at the Tema port. What happened? Just imagine. The container has the cable you brought. I have sold cable before. It will lie down there more than 100 years. It does not have expiring date. So even when you import it and there's message from above that it is too much, leave them. 10 years to come, you will need them. The same thing. John Mama brought light and they were saying SS power. Are we not crying for power? So why can't we leave it and use it next time? Are we dumb? What kind of leaders are we? Look at somebody at Burkina Faso. That young boy is turning Burkina Faso at Nika, and we cannot do that in this country. All what we know is that, I'm building 27 houses, I'm building this, I'm buying cars. This is all what we know. Now, Ghana's supposed to be like, we're not supposed to pay electricity again. It's supposed to be free for vulnerable. But now, see, the port alone, when you're going to import things here in Ghana, it's not easy, very expensive. What kind of country are you? You can't think, God will not forgive this, our leaders.
Thank you for your thoughts. We have a caller from Town, Koforidia. What's your name?
Hello, my name is George Conland.
George
Conland.
All right. What are your thoughts, George?
My thoughts about this award scheme is, I think award schemes in themselves engender some corruption, especially if it is skewed. Sometimes they are skewed, and sometimes those who pay get awarded. So I am of the view that corruption should be fought with transparency, naming and shaming, and severe punishment.
Right.
And not award schemes. The Parliament is actually stepping out of their role, I think, because I just listened very recently the news that they have passed a bill giving themselves 200 Ghana cedis to implement educational projects in their constituency, and then additional 150,000 cedis to supervise or monitor. I think that is exorbitant. What is their share of the common funds doing? They can use that for that purpose.
Okay.
And they need 150,000 cedis to monitor 200,000 cedis projects. Very soon, this parliament will incur the displeasure of Ghanaians. We voted for them thinking that they are going to think about Ghanaians and do things for Ghanaians. Who are they going to award? The officials who are working and are getting paid and are doing the right thing.
Right.
They deserve awards.
Right. Right.
Those who do wrong should be punished. That is all. Those who do right, let's applaud them. I think that is enough. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I thought we could sneak in one more call. I see some of you are still calling. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do that. But let me just remind you, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. And if you're thinking of investing your money, that's where you ought to go. They have that new development, Willow Lane, right here in Accra. It would be a viable investment for you. Just before I go, Michael K says, what at all are we going to get? When at all are we going to get serious as a country? Instead of enacting laws that subject corrupt officers to death, you say. You are here discussing vulture awards. Anyway. And then there's Jean, or is it Jean? Because I think it's Jean Alvin Claude Brown, who says tackling corruption requires more than just enforcement. It demands a cultural shift rooted in strong moral values. It goes on, but I can't take the full comment. This is how we're going to have to draw the curtains on the AM show this morning. It's been a pleasure coming your way. April is here. Let's light it up. Let's do our best for God and country. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Joy News Desk comes your way next on this network. Have a good day.